Through the wisdom of the plants, we can learn to heal, grow, and expand. Aloha, shifters, dreamers, light guardians within this beautiful holographic matrix. Thank you for joining in once again to another one of our Paradigm Shift Central team podcasts, our Synergy Circles. This week's episode is on the spiritual wisdom of plant medicine. So as always, I am joined by some fellow amazing shifters who are on air with us, some of our leading members. So leading members, let's share some excitement about this topic and gently inviting you to unmute your microphones, and we'll make some noise and we'll say hello to all the amazing people who are joined in for tonight's podcast in our audience. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. Let's make some noise. We love you guys. Beautiful. Awesome. All right, and we got Leeza. Leeza, you're just in time. Add some whoop, whoop, whoops, whoops.
Hey,
whoop, whoop, whoop. Leeza, real quick. Whoop, whoop, whoop. We're in the intro. Whoop, 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 whoop. There we go. Leeza got in on it too. Perfect. All right, so with that said, we're going to keep things moving along here and get ready into our discussion. We'll just do a quick little introduction, housekeeping for those of you who may be new. For those of you tuning on YouTube, go ahead, drop those 11 lemons in the chat to confirm that you guys can hear us okay. If at any point you guys want to screenshot this and post it to your Instagram stories, you can tag Mystic Spider-Man and direct people to my profile link, or even just write YouTube Skull Babylon, whatever works. And of course, please feel free to continue to add your voice to the discussion tonight. And if you haven't already yet, you're welcome to connect to our Discord server. The link for that is in the info for this video. Thank you again to our Patreon supporters. You guys help make this broadcast possible. If you're a fan of this community and you want to be able to connect further, joining in on the Patreon with the $11 monthly contribution gives you the opportunity to get involved as a leading member, which will allow you to join on air for these weekly team podcasts and be a part of our inspirational, supportive space for conscious creators and leaders to be able to help lift you up, to be able to help give you the confidence, and to be able to help you become the leader that you are here to be able to help assist with the shift in consciousness. That's what this is all about. This is about us being able to practice having the conversations that we don't always get to have related to consciousness, metaphysics, spirituality, mindfulness, psychedelics, so forth and so on, to be able to help accelerate the shift in consciousness, which is exactly what we're doing here as shifters. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And again, at this point, we'll get into just kind of saying who's on air with us, and then a reminder that any of the leading members that you see on camera here today, you can find the links for their profiles in the info for this video at the end of the initial live broadcast. So come back if you're watching live and make sure that you get the links and follow up with all the creators. Make sure you're connected here, and we'll also post those into the YouTube chat. And yeah, with that said, I'll just give a quick introduction. And again, if the audio and the video is a little bit out of sync, don't worry, we get that fixed as we keep going. So my name is Brendon, Mystic Spider-Man. Most of you guys already know me. Quick note, if it's your first time here, drop a 333 in the chat, and please feel free to let us know. And on my left to right, we have Allis. So inviting Allis, let's give a nice warm welcome to Allis. Thank you so much, Allis, for being here. And we've also got Kaci back on once again. So thank you, Kaci, as well, for joining in. And we've got Kai joining us. As always, thank you, Kai, for being here. And we've got Mason back once again. Thank you, Mason, for joining in. And we've also got Curtis in here. Thank you, Curtis, for being here as always. And we've also got Leeza. Leeza, thank you so much for being here as well. And we also have Kristen, who literally just joined in right on time for her introduction. We also have Kristen. Thank you so much, Kristen, for joining in. If she can hear us. Kristen, you're waving at the camera right now. There we go. There's Kristen. Perfect. Justin, perfect time, just like the true wizards that we are. So beautiful. All right, so with that said, we're going to get into a little bit of meditation, and we'll talk more about the general topic of tonight's podcast. Just real quick before we even get into it, so tonight's topic, spiritual wisdom of plant medicine. This is in theme with Thank You Plant Medicine Week. However, in paradigm shift fashion, we've done a podcast in the past which was spiritual wisdom of psychedelics. This one, since it literally is the phrasing plant medicine, we're going to keep the context of that open. Some people are going to be talking specifically about psychedelic experiences, but we're also just going to be talking about the concept of plants as medicine and what that means to us, and general nutrition and health and everything like that. Quick note at the beginning of this, again, this podcast and this community does not encourage the use of illicit of illegal substances. Keep in mind that be sure to pay attention to the different laws where you are. Again, at this point, we are just holding space for creating the opportunity for us to be able to talk about the experiences, and again, encouraging you to be able to continue to do your own research and make decisions on your own. And none of us are here are experts. We're simply sharing from our direct experience. So thank you again, everyone, for just keeping that in mind, holding space, and being smart about the choices that you make that are best for you. So we'll get right into a little bit of a meditation, and then we'll get right into the discussion. We're going to keep tonight's podcast under 10 hours. I'm calling it now. That's, if I say that, then maybe it will be 5, and maybe it will be 3, and if we're lucky, it'll be 2.5. So we'll see how it goes. So, all right, let's get ready to move into our little bit of a meditation. We'll just set the intention here. And thank you again, everyone, for joining in. So when you're ready, just go ahead and close your eyes. This is a regular meditation that we do, just to be able to drop us into heart-mind coherence that we carry with us throughout the discussion. So getting nice and comfortable. If you're new to meditation, no worries, you'll be able to follow along. When you're ready, go ahead and gently close your eyes. If you want to put your hands on your chest, your hands on your heart, you're welcome to do so. So just giving yourself the permission to be able to really connect with your breath right now. Just slow things down. And just become aware of your breath. Become aware of how it brings you into this present moment, into this space of feeling safe, feeling supported, feeling loved, feeling excited. Taking this opportunity to really be able to feel gratitude for yourself, for showing up, for being here, for being a part of the conversation, even just by listening and by sharing and by being present. In this moment, just inviting everybody to imagine all of us just sitting in a beautiful circle. You can imagine us either outside in nature, in a cute little yoga studio, wherever you feel called to imagine us. Just create this image of us sitting in a circle, and we all just look around in this moment and we see these beautiful faces, and just express your gratitude to all the amazing people who are here with us once again. And as you do this, really just feel this love. Like, that's the purpose of this moment, to breathe into that love, to be able to feel the shared energetic network between us. Breathe into that and just take this opportunity to really just connect with this love. So just breathe here for a few moments. And feel free to express your gratitude to the people that you are with here in this circle, beyond space and time. And just allow your breath to be nice and gentle. You'll carry this vibration with you throughout the discussion. Expressing any gratitude, feeling that gratitude in return. And from here, we will gently prepare to be able to conclude this part of the meditation and continue to hold this image and this vibration within your heart, within your mind as we move through this discussion. And just before you conclude it, if you want to be able to express a small phrase, a sentence, even a few words from your heart to the people of this circle, what do you want to be able to say? Something to nurture their heart, nurture their spirit, even just express gratitude. Whatever comes through in this moment, just express it through your heart. Speak it right now. Thank you for being here. Beautiful. We are the plants, kind of. We're plants. We're talking plants. We're humans, but we're plants. Gently from here, we'll slowly bring our awareness back to our physical body as we carry this vibration with us. When you are ready, with a soft smile on your face and within your heart, gently open your eyes, return your awareness to the space around you, wiggle your fingers and toes as need be. So, beautiful. Awesome. All right. Thank you again, everyone, so much for joining in. Please feel free to leave some comments down in the YouTube chat if you guys have any particular message that came through. And yeah, thank you again, everyone, as we get ready to move into this discussion. And for those of you in the YouTube chat, please feel free to again, even if you're just like, oh, I'm not an expert on this topic, but maybe you got some questions you want to ask, so we'll keep an eye on the YouTube chat as we go through this. And oh, I didn't mention earlier, if you're not already yet, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube, like this video, etc., and Spotify Paradigm Shift Radio. And yeah, that's all we have to do, and let's get ready to move right into this discussion. So thank you again, everyone. Drop an 1111 if you're pumped up, excited to be here, and please feel free to share this broadcast with your friends. Okie dokie. Today's topic, the spiritual wisdom of plant medicine. So this is a very exciting topic and one that we've explored before within the Paradigm Shift Central community. In the past, we've explicitly done multiple topics related to psychedelics and psychedelic experiences. In this context for today's topic, we're calling it spiritual wisdom of plant medicine. And obviously plant medicine as a phrase isn't necessarily something that is exclusive to the psychedelic experience. The phrase is commonly associated with psychedelics, especially in theme with the idea of hashtag thank you plant medicine, which is a hashtag that I'm sure it existed before 2020, but I think last year in 2020 was like the first big day, and there was like the specific date of Thank You Plant Medicine Day, and it was really inviting people to be able to share about how plant medicine has changed their life within the context of psychedelics. So this is things like mushroom, ayahuasca, and even cannabis and things of that nature as well. Not necessarily always something that you would consider to be like the far end of the spectrum of psychedelics, but again, plant medicine is going to mean something different to different people. So the concept of plant medicine within the context of psychedelics is obviously a topic that is continuing to garner attention, is continuing to show up within our mainstream culture. There are plenty of places across the world right now that have gotten to the point where they are legalizing the therapeutic use of psychedelics. So this is where you're getting places opening up where you can go there and do mushrooms, do like a controlled monitored opportunity where it's nice and cozy and comfy, and they'll have like a kind of a psychedelic therapist, a space holder that can help guide you through. And it's becoming incredibly obvious that these psychedelics serve a purpose, especially in the opportunity to be able to take a step back, see ourselves, and to be able to practice both healing as well as integration, embodiment, expanding the way that we see things. We'll talk more about the different effects that the psychedelic experiences provide and how they can be used as medicine, how they can be used as a tool. And so when we're thinking of medicine, again, I feel like we're getting into a place where it's like, these words can mean very different things to different people in a lot of ways. And so if I were to just think of the concept of plant medicine, for me, medicine, I feel, and again, this is me just kind of talking in a moment. For me, I feel like medicine is nothing less than something doing what it is here to do by its purpose, right? So in that context, it's kind of like this idea that it's like us being who we are and sharing our art and helping other people. Like that is us sharing our medicine, it is sharing our purpose. It is sharing the gift that we can give, so to speak. So in this context, the idea of plant medicine to me is basically this idea of being able to acknowledge and identify the fact that every single plant has something to offer, has something to give. And so different plants, different vegetables of different sorts, a lot of them as food, they clearly provide different nutritional value, different minerals, different vitamins of sorts, right? And then you got different forms of ways in which the medicine is provided to the individual. And this is where it gets incredibly interesting when we get to the idea of psychedelics, because it appears that, these psychedelic medicines, these psychedelic plant medicines, eating them probably won't necessarily do too much to you, but they are clearly, their purpose is to interface with our consciousness, which is a very, very phenomenal thing to be able to think about, because it's just like, whoa, like what came first? Like were they put here for us? Did we evolve in unison with them and it just naturally kind of coincided? But you start looking into the idea that clearly these psychedelic plant medicines are something that when interfaced into the human body have the opportunity to be able to radically shift the ways in which we see consciousness. And we'll talk about that today. Literally, I'd love to be able to invite people to talk about the different psychedelic experiences that they've had for those of us that wish to share. And also, again, what the experiences was like. Because I think when it comes to plant medicines related to the psychedelics, trying to explain it in words is a quest in itself. And a lot of people who haven't done psychedelics, it can be, again, it's one of those things where it's just kind of like you can explain it to them, but it really is a direct experience. But I feel we're getting better at explaining it. I feel like we're starting to find the vernacular to be able to begin to talk about these experiences, even though they often can be very ineffable. So again, like talking about again, psychedelic mushrooms, talking about things like ayahuasca, which I'm not expecting too many people here to have a personal experience with, and even as well as like, if people feel called, if they feel called to be able to like talk about things like even like DMT, or even just not even from your direct experience, but just the concept of it. And of course, even things such as cannabis and how, again, we can use these in an intelligent and respectful and sacred way, with the intention of being able to interface them so that they can help serve their purpose, opposed to us like abusing them and using them as a crux. But I'll just kind of wrap it up here. So again, the concept of plant medicine is one that I feel really goes hand in hand with the collective shift in consciousness, as more people are beginning to understand and become aware of the fact that these medicines are here as an extension of the bigger earth organism, and thus have a part to play. What is that part that they play? That is kind of the mystery that is unfolding. Back in the day, psychedelics were thought to, depending on who you listen to, were thought to just be, like a waste of time, and they make your brain bleed and everything like that. But now more and more people, as a result of the fact that literally, how fascinating is it that literally within the past like 10 years, more people have done psychedelics on Earth than probably the entire history of our known history so far, so to speak, right? Like if you, I remember having this thought back in the day where I had my first psychedelic experiences with mushrooms, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is so visceral, this is so amazing, this is so profound. And the idea that there are other people that will experience this and something similar, and then we'll be able to talk about it as a community, is so exciting. Because I'll just say here real quick, from my experience with working with psychedelics and mushrooms, it really just does open you up to this knowing and this direct experience where you are pulling back the veil, pulling back some of the filters, and it's directly visceral of the idea that you are interfacing with part of an interconnected network of energy. Very, very simply put, you're just like, whoa, there is this network of energy, and I am in it, and I feel it, and I can see it, and it's picking up within my senses. And it's not just a theory. Like, it's not just something that you're just looking at within a psychedelic image. It's something that you're literally directly experiencing. And the biggest thing with psychedelics, and I'll just say this and I'll pass it over, is for me and a lot of other people, when you're working with psychedelics, it feels very, when it's in a place where the setting's proper and it's a good trip, so to speak, it feels very familiar. It feels like home. It feels like a process of remembering. It's very dreamlike for a particular reason. We can talk more about that later. And yeah, it really is just kind of this thing where when we do it, we're just like, oh my goodness, like this is so important to my experience. And to be able to connect with it can be radically transforming and healing and expanding and opening. And there's so many different ways in which, again, these plant medicines are being used for different purposes. And just to put it real quick, again, not to say that literally just doing plant medicines is going to solve the problem for you. You still have to do the work. Like that is the thing. And again, plant medicines, when used in an incorrect setting, aren't always going to be the solution that you want. It will, again, this is part of an ongoing discussion, and we'll talk more about it later. But there is, again, a lot of responsibility that comes into play when you're working with such sacred medicines that are literally, again, like tapping us into this very powerful experience that I feel is there to be able to help us remember, connect back to our divinity, connect back to this spiritual awareness, and then to be able to take that knowing, integrate it into ourselves, and bring it out into the world through the inspiration of our actions and our art and our calling to want to be able to help make a difference. This is where you hear some people, they do plant medicines, and I know for me, it really inspired me. It's like, oh my goodness, like all this like crazy metaphysical stuff, like it's real, like it's literally real, and it's something that we can all experience. How can I help be an ambassador for this? So I'll stop talking now. I went a little bit further on that, but clearly plant medicines are changing the world. They're changing individual lives. More people are becoming aware of them. They're incredibly powerful right now. In terms of being able to help people within our culture. And there's a lot of people that have had a lot of direct experiences of how plant medicine has changed their life. But again, we'll open up things. Let's lean into the concept of psychedelics just for now, for the starters, for those of us who I'm passing talking to stick to next. And then we'll kind of like transition into the additional concept of plant medicine, which is, again, in the expansion of it being beyond just the concept of psychedelics as well. So obviously this is a big topic. So just give me a quick hands. Who wants to be able to kind of like talk about their relationship with plant medicines in the context of like psychedelics, first and foremost? if you have had psychedelic experiences and you can just talk a little bit about how it has changed your life, let us know what are some things that you feel would be helpful for our audience to be able to know as well. So just give me a quick hand. Neil, I saw your hand. Who else wants to just be able to? Kai and Mason as well. Okay, Mason, do you want to go? Can I pass it over to you first, if you're cool with that? Okay, cool. So let's give a nice warm welcome to Mason. Thank you everyone again for being here. Leave your comments down in the chat. And Mason, when you're ready, I'll pass it over to you. Give a brief introduction and then let us know what is, from your perspective, the spiritual wisdom of plant medicine. Go right ahead, Mason. Welcome.
Thank you, everyone. Hello. I'm Mason. I'm also known as Cosmic Landings online on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. I'm currently working to produce guided meditations, and if you want to follow anything about that, you'll see it down below after the show notes. For me, plant medicine is a sacred tool that is used to help you like reconnect with the spirit or divine within inside of you. And talking about it can sometimes be a very difficult topic because putting it into physical language seems almost too foreign to even comprehend what happens in the experience. As Brendon talked about, it's more of a direct experience, but we are getting better at putting it into words and how it relates to our human senses. One thing I specifically wanted to talk about was set and setting, and especially now that speaking first and foremost, I wanted to talk on how important it is to use these substances or tools or medicines with intention and providing the right space, such as like having a safe environment, knowing you're with people you can trust, and then on the other hand, doing it when it's a good time for you. This isn't something to take lightly. This is not like a party decision. This is something that you want to plan and you want to have a sacred space, sacred time. You don't want to just jump into this because what it will unravel for you is everything that you're unaware of. So if you can plan for it, if you can eat certain foods, maybe you feel called to go on a fast or a new diet, or maybe you want to do some certain chakra meditations, whatever you feel most called to will be the best for you on your path before diving into these substances. And then from there, once you're out of that space, it will help you realign with where you do want to go. I will pass it on over to whoever would like to speak next. I just wanted to personally speak on my behalf and recommend how important set and setting is. Thank you.
Wonderful. Very, very well said. Thank you, Mason, for getting us started on the conversation. And we'll just kind of tag team off of each other. So if anybody wants to follow up on anything that Mason said, or just kind of go with what you feel called to share. Kai, I was going to pass it over to you next. Is that cool? And then we'll pass it over to Neil after that, and then we'll keep getting the talking stick going around. Go right ahead, Kai, when you're ready. Give a nice little brief introduction, and let's give a nice warm welcome for Kai, and tell us about how psychedelics or anything have changed your life, etc., etc.
Hey everyone, my name's Kai. On Instagram, I'm coachq.md, and on TikTok, I'm KaiTaiKevinQ. And yeah, psychedelics has really changed my life. One of my most prized possessions I own. I have this book. It's called How to Change Your Mind: What the New Science of Psychedelics Teach Us About Consciousness, Dying, Addictions, Depression, Transcendence by Michael Pollan. And I had no idea who Michael Pollan was, but I was like taking a break from med school and I was on a road trip. Um, Me and my 2010 Mazda hatchback, and I was in Boulder, Colorado, and I went to like a really hippie cool bookstore, like the coolest bookstore I've ever been to, and they had all these like flyers for all these book events coming up. And I saw this like one like poster for the book event, like this book, and I was like, what the fuck? So I bought a ticket to the book event, and I actually met Michael Pollan, and he autographed this book for me. And I had this book with me while I was driving through the US, and it was a soul journey. I may or may not have had the thought of maybe, but maybe likely not, taking some Lucy in the Sky of Diamond across the border. But, anyways, I had kind of a journey on a journey. Like I had this road trip, and I was also kind of journeying on psychedelic substances, and just kind of echoing what Mason was saying. they are tools, but you got to use them wisely. You got to treat them with respect, like you would treat like any wise elder. And if I can just keep echoing one thing, it's like, yeah, make sure you're in the right set and setting. Like, make sure you have a good headspace, like you have, good intentions. Uh, Ideally, you have like, at least one good friend around you or someone that might have done it before to guide you. Sometimes you can have sitters. You can have like a close friend that you're comfortable with. They can be around. Make sure you're in a safe place, and then down the hatch and just be open with it because it's like, yeah, it's a crazy roller coaster ride. Um, and of course, it's not just like psychedelics not going to solve all your problems. It's not going to bring you like to enlightenment forever and ever. But I think of psychedelics as like a shotgun approach. It's almost like you kind of jump into those circus comical cannons and it just shoots you out into like out of orbit and you get like a taste like almost instantaneously of like ego dissolution and maybe closer to nirvana or whatever you want to call it. But then as it fades away, like Mason was saying, it's hard to describe with words. Like you can't really word it out. And it's really almost like a trippy dream that you might remember here and there, or you might remember it more in like feeling tones and like, future deja vu experiences. But it does change you profoundly when you can have those kind of breakthrough experiences. And even though you kind of sober up and you kind of feel like you're back to normal, um, like Michael Pollan says, like one of the quotes is that so he's this 80-year-old dude, this white dude, and he like is an investigative journalist. So he did like DMT and 5-MeO DMT and mushrooms and acid. And he said afterwards, what he got out of it is that like he has another viewpoint, like another landing to perceive his normal day-to-day reality with. Yeah, so psychedelics are great, but at the end of the day, use them wisely, treat them with respect, and enjoy.
Thank you, Kai. Just before we pass it off, I want to kind of just give you and other people an opportunity here. If you could explain in words the best possible way, like if you could explain what the trip is like even kind of going from like the initial onset, just try. I'm not like just to for the novelty of trying, because I encourage all of us to be able to do that. Again, like, well, I'll just let you go first. I just kind of want to give the blank slate. Go ahead, Kai. How would you explain it to us, almost as if it's like you're explaining like a movie scene or something like that?
Yeah. Um, like psychedelics is pretty broad genre, and I've tried like a couple different, maybe or not, maybe no.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah,
That's
allegedly,
that's
allegedly.
that's the word tonight. Allegedly.
Okay, allegedly, yeah, allegedly. And I think for me, it kind of comes like kind of in waves. It's almost like there's anticipation, like they kind of kick in. It could be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. It could be one of those like you think it's not working, and then it kind of hits you out of nowhere. And it's very like it comes in waves. Because for me, like what comes up are like those like kind of distorting, like you kind of lose sense of who you are, and they're almost like sometimes like clowny, distorted movie scenes where it's like you're not just like in one frame of movie scene anymore. Like one time, maybe allegedly, I had like literally like my viewpoint was like up in the clouds and I was looking down on myself and my allegedly my friends at the time. And it's just like kind of unsettling. But then it's like I think like a sense of like your ego or your past remembering, like that kind of like you kind of let that go a bit, and then you can enjoy this broader perspective where you're not so like focused as one mastermind in your head, but you're kind of little masterminds scattered all around, and you can really like you can really just like see like beauty in everything around you as if it's like the first time you've seen a tree, and the first time I've seen this like mic, and the first time I've like seen any of your beautiful faces. It's always that like new like kind of novel mystically kind of feeling. Yeah.
I can feel it right now, man. Like that's the thing. Like we're talking about it, and it's just kind of like we're tapping in for those of us who have had these memories from this lifetime. It's just like oh man, like I'm there. Like I can feel it. Just thinking about it, it's just like that's the thing. Like the memories of our psychedelic experience can kind of like bring us back to that feeling and perception. And I like that idea that yes, it adds kind of like this like mystical quality to things that is like very like awe. You're just like oh my goodness, like this tree, like has it always been this beautiful, like has it always been this magical? It's like the answer is yes. But very very simply put, and again I'll pass it to Neil, and I think I encourage all of us, those of us who have had these experiences, just for the novelty of us trying to explain it in words. I think it's actually quite amusing and almost comical sometimes. Good practice. But one thing I'll just say real quickly, this is like a practical way of explaining the psychedelic experience. I mentioned before, it's this idea of kind of pulls back the filters. This is what even when I was younger, like when I was trying to understand like what's happening with psychedelics, like what is actually happening. Very simply put, I think it's basically this idea, and a lot of people realize this now through science. No offense, science. But basically it's this idea that the way we're perceiving reality right now through our vision and our other senses is filtered. Like it's literally filtered. We're receiving the information, but it's not all like being processed through our immediate perception of reality, which is kind of a different thing. The energy that we receive and the energy that we perceive is actually two different like modules or something like that. So we're receiving, literally it's this idea that we're in this ocean of energy all the time. And so when you're doing psychedelics, most psychedelics, it literally is this process where it kind of like peels back those filters, and then what you're actually perceiving is actually like the energy that is always there already, but now you can literally see it. And this is where, again, to parallel it would be like birds being able to see the electromagnetic spectrum, and bugs probably seeing energy waves and things like that. Like you can literally, depending on the psychedelic, you can literally see it. You can feel this waviness. You can feel this oceaniness. You can feel this idea that we literally are in this ocean of energy, very simply put. And then again, that idea of being able to look at it, like you're literally looking at it. You're not just hallucinating it. You're literally looking at it, and you're just like, it's there, and I am a part of it. That's the big thing with psychedelics, is that it really removes the separation. So suddenly, it's not just like you and the tree. It's you tree. It's like tree grass field. It's a tree grass field, sunset sky, like it's all, and then it loops back in me, like it's woo, it dissolves the separation. It really just like brings things into a full all-encompassing not just perception but actual feeling. Like it's a visceral feeling, and it really incorporates all of our senses, not even like 5, like literally there's like more senses, there's like stuff. And if I were to say, like some cases when psychedelics, when you're in a really good state, it can feel almost like a kind of like a hot air balloon expanding within you, where it's like oh. And I notice that sometimes, where it's like literally with some psychedelics, like your breath actually changes. Like your breath is like so much more expansive. You're like, whoa, like what, like is this, like how do I not normally breathe like this? Like I feel like this is actually what breathing should be like. But again, that's when psychedelics are like at the place where there's like, oh, this is awesome. But then at the same time, you'll get some psychedelics where it's like, oh, like I feel like purging and I feel like crap and everything like that. And again, that's kind of part of the medicine. It's that you start getting into some of the psychedelics, it's literally about like purging and deep rooted stuff and taking a magnifying glass to your subconscious. So yeah, psychedelics can be this thing where it's like, oh my goodness, I'm in this ocean of energy, and I am this ocean of energy, and I feel like Neo from the Matrix, and this is a visceral experience that no one will be able to tell me I did not experience. And this is life-changing, because this is like something that my soul already knew, and here I am, and it's like I'm in a movie, and it's like epic and magical, and magic is real. That's summarized. But then you got the whole other side of it, which is again about like the internal integration, reflection, empathy, healing, all of these aspects to it. So psychedelics, like everything else, has the light and the dark, the yin and the yang, and we can move across these different spectrums within it, and both still serve the purpose. You know, it's kind of like one of those things where it's like you get the trip you need, sort of thing. So you may kind of, sometimes you can be like, oh, like I'm going into this with the best set and setting, and maybe for whatever reason the medicine will be like, well, this is what you need, you know. So it's almost like this medicine is like this advanced version of technology that analyzes what you need on a spiritual level and delivers it. How freaking crazy is that? But again, that's just one way of looking at it. You guys tell me what you think. Neil, I'll pass it over to you. Neil, thank you so much for joining. I know you got a lot to be able to share on this. Neil, go ahead and give a brief introduction for yourself and tell us a little bit about spiritual wisdom of plant medicines from your perspective. Welcome, dude.
Thanks, bro. There's a lot to go over in regards to this, and so many different facets and where I want to go. But first of all, hello everybody. My name is Neil, and I'm the founder of Portal to Ascension. And you can find me on portaltoascension.org, on YouTube and other platforms. And you can find me as a conscious rapper, spoken word artist at I_am_resonance on Instagram. And this topic
Neil,
is
real quick, is your microphone on
Yeah.
your headphone or is it in front of you?
Oh, can you hear me or no?
Yeah, it sounds good. I just wasn't sure if it was like dangling
Yeah,
somewhere. If it's better.
on my
Okay.
phone. It's on my
Yeah,
phone.
good enough.
So...
Oh, it's on your phone. Okay, keep going. Don't mean to
All
interrupt.
right, cool. So I want to be respectful of time. How much time do I have in order to just kind of give a rundown?
Go talk like 5-10 minutes, and then we'll see where we're at.
Okay,
That's cool.
Yeah,
I know there's a lot to share. So yeah.
So I know, right, a million minutes. So I've been doing plant medicine. I'm a huge advocate for plant medicine. It's actually, I would say that there are two things that have shifted my life, and I went from depression and like hating myself to loving myself purely. And it would be Vipassana, which is a 10-day silent meditation retreat that I went to like 6 times. That was actually more powerful than plant medicine ceremonies I've ever been on. It was just like in darkness for that long. And then definitely plant medicine. Ayahuasca has been a great, benefit. Has been really beneficial to me. And then also I have, I've practiced with DMT and combo and magic mushrooms. Mushrooms has been with me since I was 18. So just to kind of give you like kind of a story, because I really want to go into speaking about the experiences. I started doing my psychedelics for the first time when I was 18. I went into college, and I met a bunch of people from all over the world. We started listening to like psychedelic rock, Tool, and other bands, and so I started doing mushrooms, right? Because like it's what they were talking about. But for the first few years, good, like I don't know, like 5 to 6 years, I was doing mushrooms like 20 times a year, but I didn't know that it was a spiritual thing that I was doing. I was going to Vegas, doing mushrooms, throwing it in burritos. I was like having a great time on mushrooms, but I was actually getting a lot of spiritual awareness that I didn't realize until later. I actually began writing poetry and doing what I do now, which is spoken word art and rapping, when I was taking mushrooms, because I was taking mushrooms and getting all these downloads from like different storylines of extraterrestrials, and I hadn't researched any of this at that point. So this is in year 2000, and then I began writing poetry on these different beings and quantum realities and metaphysics and black holes, and I actually ended up researching my own keywords and my own poetry around 2003 2004, and started realizing that a lot of the stuff that I was actually like writing on mushrooms had some component of truth when it comes to like learning about our ancient history. I didn't take ayahuasca. My first time I think that I did ayahuasca was about 10 years ago, and at this point I've done it 11 times. The first few times I did it was actually in the US, in Temecula, which was really uncomfortable, because we were out in the desert, and basically we just had a blanket and a sleeping bag, and we just did it out there on the hard surface. And my wife was actually like accidentally went on top of an ant hill, so she was being bit by ants all night while she was on ayahuasca. That was one of our first experiences, and I never actually had any tangible experience the first maybe 2 or 3 times I did it. At first I was like, oh, why? I was wondering, why did everybody else have an experience and I didn't? And then after the second time, I had a download come to me. No like tangible like experience where I was seeing things or feeling certain things, but the download was that as I'm ingesting this medicine, that it's basically peeling back layers, and the more I take it, the more the layers will peel back, and eventually the experiences that may result in even more healing or alignment would come to me. So it took around, I think it was my 6th journey on ayahuasca in Peru, in the jungle, in the Amazon jungle, when we were actually at a 14-day ayahuasca retreat where we did plant medicine 4 times. On the 6th time, so I'd already been there, and we did 3 journeys. And for those 3 journeys in the jungle, the only thing that was happening to me was, and just to talk on about the range of different experiences, because some people talked about like the waves and everything like that, but what really happened to me wasn't anything visual or something that was expanding my consciousness or my mind in that moment that I could tangibly feel. What happened was I was channeling all these types of yoga moves. I was doing, like, you've ever heard of rolfing? I was rolfing myself. I was channeling yoga moves, and I was, believe it or not, I was literally humping the ground with like for like hours. Where, like, just to give you an example, I was laying flat on the ground, right, like this. This happened in 4 or 5 different journeys, and I would just like boom, 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 just like my whole pelvis would come up and smack the ground. I was just like just channeling this energy. And when it after a few times of this happening, I decided to like ask ayahuasca to stop, because I was still conscious in my mind. I wasn't completely gone. I was like letting this happen to my body, but I was still aware. So in that moment, I had a thought to myself. I'm like, well, something is happening here. I feel like I'm exerting trauma into the ground for somehow, and I should let it happen. But at the same time, my conscious mind was like, whoa, you've been doing this for at least 3 hours. You're going to be in pain tomorrow. So I said to ayahuasca, I'm like, should I take a break? And then as soon as I said that, it stopped. I was completely, everything was still, everything was normal. I got up, I drank water, I coughed, I like cleansed myself, and then I went down, and then I just relaxed, and it just took over again. And that happened up until my sixth time, which is my third experience in Peru. And then on my fourth experience, the last experience in Peru, midway into the journey, all of a sudden I started seeing something. So I'd done 6 journeys not seeing anything. And in the time that I saw something, the first thing that I saw was something that I'd actually been told in my first journey, was that a lot of times some people see a serpent. And if you see a serpent, the shaman, she actually told me that go inside of the serpent's mouth. You don't know where you'll end up. But if you see like a snake coming up to you and you don't want to actually engage with the snake, just go ahead and say, I'm not ready. So I did that on my first ever ayahuasca journey. I saw an apparition of a snake. I said, I'm not ready. And then it took 6 journeys before I ever saw anything again. Then on my sixth journey, I saw the snake, and this is over a period of like 4 or 5 years, right? So I saw the snake come again, and this time I didn't say I didn't want to see you, and I went into the snake's mouth, and I went into this whole realm of wormholes and butterflies and all these things happening, and just craziness. A lot of like my own demons were coming out of me, and I was seeing it. It was kind of a scary experience. And then right at the end of my like seventh ayahuasca journey, right, the first journey that I ever had visuals, within, I would say, like within the last 5 minutes, I don't even know, but I had, all of a sudden, all of the craziness and the chaos I saw just cleared away from my eyes, and I saw like a utopia. And then I heard the word kneel, right? And I never heard a voice before, because a lot of people say they hear voices, and I know people that have had interactions with like ETs and having conversations. I know a friend of mine that sat with his dad that passed away, that was really like not a good dad to him, and he had a whole conversation for multiple hours. So I always knew that this whole thing about like having someone talk to you is possible, and ayahuasca tangibly, actually physically speaks to a lot of people, and they have conversations with it. So on the seventh journey, right at the end, after this all this craziness and 7 journeys of trying to get to some place, I saw this utopia, I heard my name, and then I woke up. And that was my last journey in Peru. And then fast forward a couple of years later, I went to Rhythmia in Costa Rica, which was 2 years ago now, and we did. I think there was 4 journeys over there as well. And I would say that my journeys in Rhythmia and Peru were probably the most life changing ones I've ever had. Earlier that year, I had gone to Vipassana, where I had a really like epic experience, where I literally shifted from like there's this kind of like buzzing in my head and like that chatter in my head, and then all of a sudden it just switched off. So when I went to Rhythmia, I was just reinforcing kind of what I had in that experience there, and I went from just being a really unpresent person and kind of not happy with myself, which is just my default setting was love for myself. But a lesson that I get every single time I really go and do any psychedelic is something that many of us have already touched on here, is that it's not there to heal you per se, it's here to show you the way. So the science behind it is what I really love. And I just did an all day 10-hour conference called Psychedelic Awareness and Plant Medicine online conference on December 12th of last year. It was the first annual, and I'm going to be doing quite a few. There's going to be a plant medicine series of workshops every month on our website, where we're doing like microdose integration ceremonies, things like that. And so in my experience, I realized that what plant medicine does, so let's specifically talk about ayahuasca, they've hooked people up to EEG machines, right? They've kind of taken a look at what your brain looks like before you do ayahuasca and afterwards. And something that we've seen that happens with DMT and ayahuasca, or anything that has a high concentration of DMT, is the complete rewiring of the neurosynaptic connectors in your brain. So what happens over like your whole entire life is you do something the same way over and over and over again, and then it calcifies into that specific habit or thought form. So a lot of positive things, are created that way, but also a lot of negative things. So when you do when you do ayahuasca, there's this whole thing that happens where the calcification that has created the synaptic connections that make you think that these are the ways that you look at the world and the ways you carry yourself out kind of like unwind, and then you have the ability afterwards to rewire your brain in whatever way you want. And what I've noticed is that a lot of things that I thought were holding me back, I don't feel that way after I've had these experiences. And then the work after that really is if you're going to continue doing it, because it shows you the way and what you need to do, and then afterwards you got to go do it. Sometimes I've had journeys on different types of plants, and the what I've learned is, oh my God, I need to go sit down with this person and really talk and express how I feel, right? So it's not healing it for me in that moment, but it's giving me the tools and the communication ability to go ahead and like basically the drive and the will to go ahead and make an actual change in my life. And many times after plant medicine, especially mushrooms, I've had the nerve the next day or the days after to go and have conversations that were maybe like a little more difficult that have led to healing. So I just want to leave it on this just to add a little more here, is that the reason why I'm doing a lot of events on plant medicine on our platform right now is that there's this huge decriminalization going on across the world, or across the US especially, in regards to plant medicine. In 2019, 100 cities in the US had it on their ballots to decriminalize magic mushrooms. About 10 of them had it on their ballot to vote for the decriminalization of all psychedelic naturally occurring plants and mushrooms. So right now in the U.S., Oakland, Denver, Chicago have all decriminalized mushrooms, so you can't get in trouble for mushrooms. Santa Cruz and a couple other places have decriminalized all plant medicines, including ayahuasca, San Pedro, and then Oregon has decriminalized all drugs entirely. So right now there is a huge move in order to figure out the therapeutic potential of these plants, right? So the reason for this is that you cannot really overlook the fact that people are getting healing from these psychedelics. And because that is the case, it's taken a while for that to be so important that the pharmaceutical industry takes a back seat, but now it's happening. It's happened to the point that a lot of people that are veterans that had PTSD, those were the first line of people that are being healed from mushrooms and ayahuasca ceremonies in the US, that has now led to basically city councils having open meetings where veterans are coming saying, hey, you need to legalize this. So one of the things that we're doing now is we're working with the Psychosomatic Institute down here in LA that are actually training people, the first generation of people, to be therapists with psychedelics, with MDMA, with mushrooms, with ayahuasca. So it's happening. Even in Canada now, there is a company that is actually being publicly traded that is the first company that is going to be bottling microdose mushrooms around the world. So it's extremely important at this moment. And the reason why this is happening is because we're reducing the stigma around this whole thing entirely. Like, we really need to share the truth about what these things are, because what these sacred instruments are really tools that have been provided to us by the cosmos, universe, whoever, so that we can stay in alignment with the planet and have remembrance of who we are. Because I do feel that we're on this planet of amnesia, and we don't all come with all of our memories. And as Brandon had said earlier, when we do these psychedelics, it helps basically shift our alignment and our brain frequencies, and it opens us up to such a wider range of frequencies of experience, dimensions of experience, what we can see, what we can eat, what we can hear. So by opening us up to these other realities and dimensions, we're able to take wisdom from these realities and bring it back to this world right now.
Beautifully said. Wonderful. Thank you, Neil, so much for being able to, again, not only just share your wisdom and your experience, but also just be able to share those updates on where, again, things are moving forward with the psychedelic research. And again, you know, like we've done this conversation multiple times over the years where the concept of them being legalized was quite a ways off, but now it's happening. And it's fascinating to be able to see. And you know, what would the, like, are we going to get to the point where things like microdosing and things like that could eventually be like prescribed by a doctor? And we'll see. Well, there are some doctors that are already doing it, so it's an ongoing discussion. So yeah, awesome. Neil, thank you so much. We're going to keep passing things around, but just real quick, for those of you who, again, just Neil's talking about some upcoming events, be sure to check out Neil's website for the project that he facilitates, which is portal2ascension.org. Posted that into the notes into the live chat. So if you're looking for some more events on psychedelics and lots of other stuff, portal2ascension.org, and Neil's at I_am_resonance, MC Resonance on Instagram, and you'll find that in the show notes. So Neil, thank you for being here, dude. Love being able to hear your wisdom. So super awesome.
Thanks, bro. Love you, man.
Love you too, man. And again, I love the idea of like in those psychedelic states when again, it's kind of like it's like we're opening up channels. And so if we can open up those channels with intention, like that's where the idea of like working with plant medicine with the intention for like creative development and expression and outlook, like that's so powerful. And I love, that's where, like, for me doing psychedelics, like the idea of like bringing like movement and intuitive thing, it's just like I've done that before where I'll start doing like hand mudras and I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is like in my soul. Like again, it's kind of like bringing these like aspects to yourself that it's like, whoa, I remember how to do this. Or like playing with my lightsaber on psychedelics and stuff. Lots of stories there. So
can I just talk about one thing real quick? That'll take 1 minute.
One thing real quick. Go for it real quick, dude.
Yeah,
you got it.
Combo. A lot of you may not have heard of Combo, but I highly recommend it. It's basically nature's vaccine. It's not psychoactive.
CAMBO.
KAMBO.
Sorry, K. That's what I meant to say.
It's huge. It's from the Amazon. It's an extract from a toad in the Amazon. They take it out sustainably, and basically, if you look right here, maybe you can see the dots. They put dots on you. They burn dots on you, holes in you. They put the combo into your arm right here, and you have a 20 to 30 minute flu-like symptoms. You cough, you're sick, you're heated, you're sweating, you're drinking water, and basically the way I explain it is, if your body was a wet towel, and every organ in your body has then the towel is full of toxins, it drenches and rinses and takes it all out. So it's helped with people with all types of issues. And obviously, I'm not going to go into talking about the medical breakthroughs here because it could get banned. But for example, someone who was having fertility issues went there 3 months in a row, and all of a sudden she can have a baby. It literally aligns and corrects you on a hardcore level. So I recommend you check it out. But if you want to join an Instagram page that my friend runs, because he's like the biggest combo producer really in the US, Viva Combo on Instagram. Take a look at that. I highly recommend it. Okay, thanks, bro.
Awesome. Thank you, Neil. Beautiful. All right, let's keep the passing the talking stick around. There's obviously a lot to be able to talk about, and we got a lot of amazing people here who are eager to be able to share. Quick show of hands, who wants to go next? Okay, I'm going to pass it over to Z. I feel Z's pretty excited to be able to share this, and then we'll pass it around. I'd like to just be able to invite a little bit. We'll get a couple more females after Z as well, since we've already just done most of the males at the start, and then we'll keep passing these around. So thank you again, everyone, for your patience. Z, thumbs up. We'll pass it over to you next if that's cool. So let's give a nice warm welcome to Z. And Z, when you're ready, please feel free to briefly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about spiritual wisdom of plant medicine from your perspective. Welcome, Z.
Hi. It's not too loud, right? Like background
Can't
noise.
even hear it. Sounds fine.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Hi. I love you guys. I'm really excited about this topic. I think it's a topic that a lot of people have deep conditioning and programming around, and so it's really important that we have these conversations and that we can kind of create new insight to how powerful these are as medicine, truly. A way to connect with consciousness, what I like to tell people when it comes to like plant medicine or drugs, is that the idea I basically have now, it doesn't add an effect. It's not like an added effect that you're experiencing life. It actually is taking away a barrier between you and that connection. That's how I view plant medicine, actually. It's actually taking away some sort of disconnect between you and consciousness, or reflection of it. So I did ayahuasca. I've experimented with a lot of things, but like I wanted to share about my ayahuasca trip because I thought it was gonna be like rainbows and butterflies. Like I've only heard really good things, like, oh, you're gonna feel like you're gonna see God, you're gonna be in space, like all of these like incredible, things. And I wasn't spiritual at the time. Like this was when I was an atheist, and I went to Ecuador in the Amazon rainforest with the shaman, and I got like all of the spiritual stuff done in terms of like the cleansing in the waterfall and like this clay rubbed on me to help. Um, anyway, so I had it. I only did it once, and that's because I know people can do ayahuasca in like different settings. And I purged. I had diarrhea, but mostly purging. Like I vomited a lot, and so then it started like to shut her out. Like like if you were watching like a 1950s TV show or something of that nature, like it's like fuzzy. Like it was like that. My vision was very fuzzy in that way. And I just started seeing, like, basically I saw whatever the Big Bang is, or whatever you want to call that. I saw like the beginning of time and everything like that would transcend from there until like where I was. And what I saw was the absolute worst things possible. Like everything that was dark is all I saw. So I saw like all of the world wars that happened. Like I saw like World War One, and then I saw World War Two, and then I saw like the atom drop, and then I saw like 9/11 happening again, and then like terrorism and like bombs dropping and people just famished in that way. And like it was just like globalized type of situations that I was just seeing full on. And then I started seeing more like smaller structures, but still in a globalized way. So I started seeing like homicides. I started seeing murders. I started seeing women just being raped, like one after the other, after the other, after the other. I just saw like rape, and then kill, and then just incest, and just anything that was dark. Basically, is like what was coming on full force in my vision. Like I couldn't stop it. It was just I was just being shown, you know. And then it went from like seeing that layer for a while. I lost total track of time. And then I started seeing like my friends and their extensions, like things that I hadn't thought about in years. Like I started hearing about like whatever fucked up things I had ever been told in my life of my friends or of my friends' friends, etc. I started seeing in that way, which was like cheating or like just what was it? It was like rape came up again. Then I saw so this was like a peculiar thing, and now today I kind of understand it better. When I first got to the shaman's place, there was like this little 12-year-old girl there. She was like maybe 10 to 12, like that's it. And I was with my tour guide, and it was just me. I was traveling through South America alone. And the first question she asked me, she was like, "Are you married to him?" Like the tour guide. I was like, "No." I was like, "That's an odd question for her to ask me," but I just totally brushed it aside. When I was tripping on Aya, I saw the fucking shaman molesting that 10-year-old girl in my vision. And it wasn't like oh my God, like I'm making this up. It was like so real. I was like, oh my God, like, no, I think he definitely is. And of course, there's nothing that I can say to verify this, but it was such a weird thought for me at that time. But now, given what I know today and how prevalent, child trafficking is and just like that issue, it makes more sense and just making this relate again. So, and then eventually, so it was like probably 3 to 4 hours long for me. And then eventually it came to my friends, my close friends, and then eventually came to my family. And then I was like literally like just crying in front of my parents, like, why can't you ever accept me? And then it was just like me. And then it just became dark. And then I fell asleep finally. So I woke up the next day. There was a monkey literally in my face. I woke up and I screamed. But literally I like opened my eyes. There's like a monkey peering right back at me. And then I fed it bananas later. It was fine. It was cute. But I was pissed off. I was like, what the fuck was that? I was like, I thought I was gonna like be again, I wasn't spiritual back then. I thought I was like taking a drug and gonna have fun kind of thing, and I totally didn't see that coming. It took me a proper year to process this. Like it took me a long time. And for me, the conclusion was everything I saw had actually happened. And everything that I saw in the present tense was also actually happening. We're just so disconnected from the shadow, from the pain and the trauma coexisting in our lives. We have this veneer, this illusion of safety that we're constantly under. But actually, there's someone literally being raped right now. There's literally someone being killed right now. You know, there's literally a baby being molested somewhere in the world right now, like many. and we are literally coexisting as it's happening, but we're so disconnected from it. And that to me was like my biggest understanding from my ayahuasca experience, and just seeing like my heart like broke in half for the world. Like I was just bawling, crying. I was fucking bawling, crying for like 3 hours straight. Like my heart just like shattered in half. But it was so necessary. And that was something that has never left me. Like I can't ever stop after what I saw. Like I can never forget, if that makes sense. But a lot of us don't even, like, it's one thing to know that it happens and think about it. There's another thing like to have a deep-seated like actual connection to that darkness in our day-to-day lives and decisions. It changes the perspective about everything, you know. So anyways, that was my experience, and I want to do it again. The people told me, they're like, you can't, like, you puke more than normal and you shouldn't do this for a while. He was like, but you have to do it again. Come back in the next, like, come back after a few years. So I'm going to do it again. I have been too afraid to do it, but now I know that I'm ready to do it again. So Costa Rica this year sometime, anyone? gonna go back? Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of things that we could talk about in terms of medicinal or like healing powers, etc. But really, it's just like getting connected to what exists for whatever it is, your purpose and journey and your need to expand is. Like it's very individualized.
Absolutely. Z, thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, like again, we were kind of talking about this a bit before, but it's interesting because like the medicine of the plants literally helps you become who you are meant to be so that you can share your medicine with the world, so to speak. So like it's like healing for more healing for more healing. And yeah, like a lot of that healing is going to be, again, the awareness of the shadow and the integration and the deep stuff as well. And that's why, again, you know, with psychedelics, especially the ones such as ayahuasca, it takes courage to be able to do them. It can take a lot of bravery, and I think that's where even those of us who have done it before, there's always kind of like this like anxiety before we go into it, which is natural part of kind of like the stepping into it as well. And it's powerful, again, because when we think about things like ayahuasca, the one thing just to be able to recognize here, and then I'm just going to pass it to the other person, just to be able to create context, is this idea that these plants literally have their own consciousness. Like they literally have a spirit, they have an intelligence and an identity. And all of this discussion that we're talking about, again, it's pointing back to this idea of the fact that we are multidimensional beings by nature. And what does this really mean? You know, like this is a phrase, but I think as we do these work with these medicines, it becomes something where it's very visceral. And part of that visceralness is this idea that, again, it can be very like hyper, like very intense. Like there's so much information. So like Z said, in order for us to like not be in a place where we're constantly overwhelmed by it, we literally have these filters, and then it's slowly peeling back the filters and reconnecting us to kind of like this oversoul consciousness, which again is powerful when you think of it from what Z was sharing, where the intelligence of the plant, if we're speaking about it in this context, literally like makes the choice for you. Like it shows you what you need to see. It puts you in a position where it's like, oh, look at this. And you can resist it. Like you can try and resist it, but sometimes, as we talk about, being able to surrender to it is oftentimes what is recommended, or otherwise it's just going to surface again, sort of thing. So yeah, absolutely. Again, you know, when we work with these medicines, we're healing both on an individual level, but it also is the collective healing that we are interfacing with as well. So Z, that's very powerful, and thank you for being able to share what you shared tonight. And I know there's a lot of other experiences that all of us have to share, you know, just like beyond just ayahuasca and mushroom journeys and this and that and everything like that. So lots more to be able to talk about. Thank you, Z. If everybody hasn't already yet, be sure to connect with Z on Instagram, and let's keep things moving along here. So quick show of hands from who had their hands up earlier, who's like super ready to just be able to jump in next. Kristen, Kaci, we'll pass over to you, and then Kristen will pass over to you, and then from there, whoever's after that, and maybe we'll pass it back to one of the guys, and then back to whoever. Kaci, thank you so much for joining in. Let's give a nice warm welcome to Kaci. Please feel free to briefly introduce yourself and tell us a little about spiritual wisdom of plant medicine from your perspective. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kaci. Also, I am on TikTok, Instagram by Lunar Moods. I wanted to talk about the experiences that I've had, and especially this year, I kind of dabbled a little bit, not too much. Unlike the past, I started allegedly. I started when I was like 17, but that was like only one time, and I was in the woods and I didn't feel anything at first. That was just usually the first time is kind of like, oh, you don't feel anything, but the second couple times I was more in a controlled space. I was more with like friends that I knew. Sorry. There we go. So I had a really crazy experience during the January 1st, and it kind of shifted everything, shifted my whole entire paradigm, and it healed me and broke so many walls and so many blocks that I had, that eventually when I was with those friends that I was like a weekend kind of basis that I would go over there and just hang out with people and that I felt very comfortable with. I actually started doing Reiki on a bunch of people, and the experience between like being sober in that point, like you can feel that Reiki energy, but on that level is way different, and it's so cool to be able to see that and help people that way. But I started doing this technique, and I was teaching my friends this technique as well, how to kind of boost your highness, to boost that. I would start slipping into like different dimensions, and it was getting so crazy. I had to start setting like a timer on my phone, and every time when I was starting to have this like weird movie phase, I would go through this movie, and then all of a sudden everything would stop. Like zero gravity, just you're floating there, and it's like just this peaceful surrealness. And then you get back into like a movie setting, and how I started using that to my advantage, I would look at something like, let's say this cup, and ask myself, is this cup the main focus of its life? Or is it its main character in its life? Or is it just something I hold? Or something, is it an object or is actually energy? And I would have that play out and then switch to a different like dimension. So that's pretty surreal, and sometimes the trips would really help me to see a different perspective, see a different result, and take my emotions, take my perception out of the question. I was no longer the main character. I was looking at this cup, and now it's the main character. So yeah, just being able to play a little bit, and sometimes you can go into a dark place, but if you can pull yourself out, that's amazing. I don't know like what else. I had more things to talk about, but now I'm just can't think of it. But yeah, thank you for letting me share. Yeah.
Thank you, Kaci. That was wonderful share. Absolutely, yeah. Again, I love being in that space where with psychedelics, you're right. Like everything just feels very important and very sacred, even in the things that were once like just kind of like mundane. You know, like you'll go around and you'll look at objects in your house and be like, huh, like this is like this amazing piece, and it was handcrafted with love, and maybe it was like from clay from a mountain, and you like see it's like you see the past life of that cup or something like that. Like, where has this cup been all these years and everything like that. Yeah, it's funny, just just like, why don't we see things like that all the time? And so I think, again, through psychedelics, it invites this perception, and then over the course of the journey, those people, depending on how it integrates, will naturally carry with them that perception, where they'll start looking at things differently. They won't be able to look at a tree and see it how they once did. Their paradigm has literally shifted. It's kind of like they can see things in a new set of eyes, sight beyond sight. So Kaci, thank you again for sharing. Okay, team, we're going to keep things passing along. Sorry, Zentia, you had your hand. Did you want to go next to after? Because I know I said Kristen, but I know Zentia had their hand up earlier. So does Kristen? Oh, here we go. Kristen or Zentia? Who wants to go? I think Zentia wants Kristen to go. So okay, we'll pass over to Kristen, and then who wants to go after Kristen? Curtis, I know you had your hand up earlier as well, so we'll get it over to Curtis and anybody else after that. And then once we've kind of gone through again, we'll just kind of get into discussion mode, popcorn style. Kristen, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. Let's give a nice warm welcome to Kristen, and please feel free to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about spiritual wisdom of plant medicine.
Hello, beautiful souls. My name is Kristen. You can find me Pinoc Rising on TikTok or Instagram, Pinoc's Cove on YouTube. And I'm so grateful for this amazing conversation and this beautiful space to be able to just connect and share our experiences and understand the sacred containers that we can hold with these beautiful plants and the healing that can come from them. And so I just wanted to say, like, huge thank you to everybody who has shared their personal experiences, because I know how difficult it can be just to be able to put those words to your experiences, especially whenever they're something that's not quite as positive or uplifting. Like Z was saying, it's not always rainbows and butterflies. And I think that it's really important to see that, that's a beautiful experience to connect with the parts of life that aren't always rainbows and butterflies, but in a way of being able to work towards healing. And so I also really appreciated Mason bringing up being able to create a container and setting an intention. And if you are going to participate in sacred plant medicine ceremonies, to just honor the plant, honor the being that is bringing this experience forward for you to be able to connect and grow. And I think that to the just holding space for it to be whatever it needs to be, rather than trying to control the outcome of it, you're going to find that you'll flow a lot better with the plant medicine if you just allow yourself to kind of experience what's happening and make adjustments as needed. So for my experience, I have a few, but I had two that I really wanted to share because they were really um, changing for me in my life. And so the first experience was a set where I had experienced mushrooms and they were so beautiful. I had an absolutely beautiful healing experience with friends where we all connected on a deeper level, connecting with our breathing and being able to really feel the rhythm of our breaths as it connected from inhale to exhale, moving through all of the people in the room. It was really, really magical. And then later on in the evening, my experience shifted to where I was no longer seeing or experiencing what was happening around me in that now moment, but I was actually experiencing a memory that I had had. And it was a memory that I had completely forgotten about. And so for me in that moment, it was kind of jarring to be experiencing this memory it was not a rainbows and butterfly memory. It was a very much memory that I had hidden from myself. I had kept from myself because I didn't want to experience the pain of it. And so in this safe container, where I had already worked through connecting with these other people, I was able to remember this experience in my life, that whenever I was able to, not be affected by the plant medicine, I was actually able to really work with some of my, post-traumatic stress symptoms and understand why I experience life the way that I do, or why I act the way that I do. And so it was really powerful and healing for me just to be able to uncover that, and then to be able to take that work, moving forward, and just to be able to understand myself and my life better in multiple ways. And then the other experience that I had that I really wanted to share was an experience with LSD, which isn't quite a plant medicine, but it is a psychedelic medicine in and of itself. And I was going through a space where I was really scared of the dark, but I wanted to be creative and use my paints and express myself. And I did not find my painting materials. So I had my brother who was taking care of me and making sure that I was safe and, in a good space. And so he asked me where my painting materials were, and I told him they were in the dark in the garage and I didn't want to go in there. And so he was like, okay, well, take my hand, we'll go together. And so we go out into the garage and he turns on the light and he, ruffles through the things that I didn't want to look at. And he found an old bag of mine that I created some art whenever I was in high school that was like really a good interpretation of the things that were really connected with me and my being. And it was something that I had created that I completely forgot about. And so in this moment, whenever he found this bag of artwork, it was like I remembered a piece of my soul that was really essential to who I was, this creative, passionate person that loved the attention to detail. And just being able to kind of bring that out in that moment, it was like, oh my gosh, I forgot I was creative. I forgot I could draw like this. And so moving forward, just having that passion of like understanding this part of my being and taking it forward, it brought a lot of confidence and understanding of myself. And so I just wanted to encourage you that if this is something that you're looking forward to or something you're just curious about, to definitely make sure that you create safe spaces and that you've communicated properly, and that I don't remember who, but somebody was saying make sure that your head's in a good mindset and that you're ready for the wisdom that's going to come forward, because you're taking part of a sacred ceremony. And so to just treat it with respect and understand that your life can be moving. So I love you all so much. Thank you for the wisdom.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Kristen. There's a whole subset of discussion here where you start getting into the idea of like psychedelic experiences with groups and groups of different sizes, and even like larger groups, like doing it by yourself, that's one thing. Doing it with 4 friends, that's another thing. If you ever get the chance to literally like do it in a very intentional circle where there's actually like 20-30 people and stuff like that, like this can be like a very, very powerful experience. Let's keep passing the talk and stick around. Thank you again, everyone, for sharing their wisdom and their insight. Who wants to go next? I think Curtis, so we'll pass it over to you, and then we'll pass it. Who wants to go after Curtis, just to get a real Zentia, and then who wants to go after Zentia, just to be able to get a scope on things. And again, at this point, Leeza, and then at this point, again, opening up the conversation of plant medicines. I know not all of us are talking specifically on psychedelics, so if you guys feel that you want to just be able to talk on this from the perspective of plants as medicine, then please absolutely go right ahead, and that fits within the topic of this discussion for today. So let's give a nice warm welcome to Curtis. Curtis, thank you so much for being here, and when you're ready, do a little intro and share a little bit about spiritual wisdom of plant medicine. Welcome, Curtis.
Hello, peace. Mother Nature is healing us. Mother Nature is with us. It is the plant medicine, the galactic beam guiding us through the consciousness space that is space. And there is more than just psychedelics that are plants. Plants go beyond what we view as it's a trip, it's consciousness, but it's also affecting the physical world as we know it. And that's what actually these psychedelic drugs, psychedelic tools bring us closer to the source, the love that is this manifestation engine that we are a part of. And I wanted to go, and actually I really am grateful for all these stories, all these journeys, and it really triggered a lot of memories in me that I wanted to share as well. And so I want to go into really where I find my purpose in life and what the tool I've used, because I never really got a chance to be in a purely blissful, happy psychedelic experience where I do laugh and I do grin. That's where it starts. Really, you just kind of really brings you into this place of, wow, this is surreal. It's almost like a movie. You know, your thoughts have so much impact in your body, your fleshy body. Oh my God, it's fleshy. You start to realize that you're not in control of your body. And so I want to go into an experience where I want to go into a piece of wisdom that I just learned today recently. When we walk, we need ground to walk on, and so that's, you know, our feet walking on ground, creating the memories. So our soul wants to imprint somewhere, and that's the brain. So that's Brendon talked about, or Neil talked about the neurons coming up, and that's our ground, that's our earth, physical part of our body that is happening. So me growing up as a kid, I've been very institutionalized. Very institutional. My parents were very institutionalized in terms of, you know, they making me play sports, always being a sort of, they accustomed me to being chattel in this system. They accustomed me to be, they didn't really realize what they were making me to be in terms of my creative aspirations that I wanted, always deemed me as a black sheep and stuff like that. But when I first had taken, allegedly taken this LSD, I was really trying. I saw so much, and Dr. Z really hit a point of, there's so much stuff going on in the world that is not right, and you get to be aware of that. And I'm very impulsive, so I really want to fix all of it at once. I really wanted to try to fix all of it. So I'm running out in the street, running around. I run a lot, so I'm running around, and I go up and I'm talking to these homeless people, talking about, you know, we're yelling back at each other, and they're like, I can't help you. And I sit down. This is a very interesting experience, and it goes into what Neil was talking about in terms of past life, like talking to people and helping them. But I sit down in the middle of the median in the grass in front of all these cars, and I just sit there, and I'm not in control. So I see I feel the future. I see this like buzzing happening. It's always this, and you're like, you take it to I literally saw drones cutting all the grass for us. Like everything was clean and cut, but it was all, you know, empty. All the drones were cutting all the grass and stuff. And that was part one of that experience. And which actually led me to the hospital. I was in it creates a Christ-like being in you where you want to be Christ in terms of act like that, in terms of everything you do. Sometimes more or less is sacred, and that's really what the tool is for. So I want to go into my experience in the trauma center. I was in the trauma. It was almost like I was put there for a reason, because all these people there that I interacted with saw me as some sort of person that was a little bit like, I mean, I could help them. Kaci talked about doing Reiki. And it wasn't more that, it was more of the having those tough conversations, like Neil was saying, those really deep, tough conversations. And then I was able to find my purpose through that in terms of connecting with nature. And you know, you talked about, so now I want to go back into plant medicine now. Sorry, I'm going all over the place right here. So plants are, for us, healing. And that's the main subject right here, because once you are connected with nature in that way, and Brendon was talking about, you know, you see a tree, oh, this is a tree, you want to talk about this tree, you're like, wow, this tree And even when I'm not, I get memories and I feel aspiratory, or I feel some sort of, you don't have to be on anything really. You just kind of have to have that creative outlet, or, when you meditate enough, what is called samadhi. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Samadhi is obtaining knowledge through without really like having a clear physical way of obtaining knowledge. Neil was talking about how he had all those experiences, that he was absorbing all this information that he had no way of getting that information. And it's really just observation. You're observing your mind, you're observing everything is connecting, the neurons, you're getting all this information from your soul, the imprint of your soul on your mind. And that is the ground. And that's the beauty of it. This is the beauty of this living that we are here for. And so when I'm running in the grass, I have appreciation for the soil and the grass, and there's so much that is simple. We see dirt as dirt, and that's not really what it is. It's actually minerals, stuff that plants use to heal us, and that is it. I mean, we're healing each other. That's consciousness. That is literally what we are here to do, is consciously heal in the process of healing. And our disconnection through for me, the pain that I suffered was the illness. My mom has autoimmune problems, and I could see, I had spent a lot of time with my grandma, and it was always, oh, meat, eat all this food and whatever. It didn't matter what it was, and it kind of like, I feel like there's just such a disconnection with what we're eating. So it brought me to veganism, vegetarianism, and really connecting with where this energy comes from. This energy comes from is the sun, is light, and that's where we are, and that's what plants are, higher forms of light, and that's what these psychedelics are. We have a kind of evolved form, and that's a really big question that Brendon brought up, is where did those come from? Where did psychedelics come from? Is that some sort of, were they planted here from aliens? And for me, being very interested in farming, I could see that where we're headed down the road that's what people need to be doing more of, in terms of being connected with nature, growing their own food, being consciously aware of their own food. And it's not a dog eat dog world. It's more of a feed each other energy. We are getting energy in the most sustainable way possible, and we're all healing together. And I really wanted to, my point is that, yeah, I lost my train of thought, but thank you for letting me speak, Brendon, and hopefully I'll find something else to say in a little bit.
We're all healing together. That's a great point, Curtis. I think that's definitely something to carry home with us. So thank you, Curtis, for sharing. It was wonderful listening. Lots of love coming your way in the YouTube comments, so be sure to check those there as well. So
thank you so much.
Awesome. Great job, everyone. Again, this is all just practice. Again, for some of us, it's just like literally, like, even just like a few years ago, 10 years ago, like these conversations weren't happening. They weren't happening quite in the same way. There were conversations, people like Terrence McKenna and Timothy Leary and all of those psychedelic gurus from the past and everything like that. But there hasn't really been a space for people, regular, people like us that have been growing up. And I think a lot of the challenges for people is they have these experiences and then they don't have anybody to talk to about it. And they don't have a way to integrate it, and they don't have a way to relate it and to hold context for it. But now here, us having this discussion is just like, hey, here's what I learned, here's what wisdom I've brought back from it, and then we're able to share that wisdom, especially for those of us who haven't worked with the psychedelic versions of plant medicine just yet. And now here we have this opportunity to be able to like educate each other, so that ideally, yeah, we want the best possible experience for each other when we have these when we work with these medicines. And
wanted to say one more thing,
setting the intention. Yeah, go ahead, Curtis, real quick, and then we'll pass over to the next person.
So the frequency that we're consuming, right, our energy, I want to just bring that one point of what are you consuming in energy, and then that's really what we need to be focused on, and how close to source are we getting to, and psychedelics, and then going and being closer and eating vegetables. Those things are closer to that source energy, the sun, and then getting those reactions to the brain. We have access to our soul, which is even higher energy, and that's what allows us to be conscious of consumption.
Very much so. Absolutely. Again, this idea of like shifting our consciousness, awakening our consciousness, like, yeah, it is this process of really just getting us closer to personal sovereignty, divinity, realization, self-actualization, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, most people, like, they're living with like this like mud around their body of light. And I think through psychedelics, it's kind of like this process of like chiseling away the mud, cleaning away the mud. And then as we do that, we begin to naturally shine the light we are. But again, it's not just the psychedelics, it's holistic, it's everything. It's our food, our diet, our routines, all of those things, our practices. Okay, team, let's keep things moving along. We got a few more people that we haven't heard from yet. So there is some stuff that I want to share from my TikTok with like a bunch of like things that I learned from my psychedelic experience, but I'll share that a little bit later. So Zentia, we'll pass it over to you next, and then who wants to go after Zentia real quick? Just Leeza, did you want to, Leeza or Ren, if one of you guys just want to be able to decide who wants to go next, and then we'll do that. So Zentia, when you're ready, let's give a nice warm welcome to Zentia, and go ahead and introduce yourself and share the wisdom that you have related to plant medicine. Go ahead, Zentia.
Hey everyone, I'm Zentia, and I'm happy to be here as usual. And I love freaking flowers, period. Like, I don't care what flower it is, I love it though. And I know that they're not all psychedelic, but they all sure as heck do something for our bodies, right? So I'm just like, if you look in my box of herbs, there's a lot in there. So I have not had the pleasure of taking psychedelics yet. Hopefully this year I'll get a chance to get out of this COVID cage and take some cool, plant journey. I would like to say a shaman in the city. And essentially, like, all of my shamanism comes from past lives and what I've been given through spirit here. And as I'm remembering where I was before, because for my beliefs, whatever you're really holding on to in this life, you've done over and over and over and over. So as I'm coming back here and remembering, for me, let me say this. When I was younger, being raised in my household, we pretty much just, we ate the Southern foods, the same. So for Black culture in America, the foods that the slaves were given are the foods that have been carried literally up into this day today. There are meals that are made, of course, fancy with better ingredients, but they still carried it. So these are the same foods that we eat now. Now, I didn't fit with my family. I was the one wanting to eat rice and dark leafy greens and broccoli, carrots. I just wanted, I wanted to eat different stuff. So I did. And I just, looking back now, mushrooms, all types of plants. I didn't eat. It was pretty much the same stuff. And it was a lot, like Curtis was saying, it was concentrated with a lot of unhealthy things. So I ended up getting really sick. And when I did get really sick, plants saved me. I had hospital stay after hospital stay, medicine after medicine. I had trial medicine after trial medicine, and nothing worked. I finally said, look, I'm not doing this anymore. I need a card for plants. And I went and did that. And within a month, I was so much better. I didn't have anything crazy in my system because there's crazy side effects for all that stuff. And what do you know? I wasn't suffering from these severe migraines anymore. Having a necklace with lavender and chamomile on it, a little bit of bergamot, things like that. Putting these things in my shower, in my lotions helped. Even under my nose and behind my ears at time helped me. I probably would, I'm gonna say I owe everything to plants. I now work in the cannabis industry. It's my dream to just heal tons and tons of people. And it's funny, when I went to a convention a long time ago for cannabis, majority of the room didn't use it. They just had sick family members, and their family members who were sick needed it. So they wanted to fight to get it in a place where their family members could get it. So as one of the people who goes into heal other people with plants, mixing all types of botanicals together and seeing the results as you mix them. And I don't know, it's kind of like a science now when I'm mixing the plants, and it's a really beautiful process. I made these here. So let me read this to you guys. The alchemy that comes with plant medicine, because plants are an important part of the alchemic system. In creating, sorry, I want to make sure I'm reading the right one. Okay, here we go. Sorry. Okay. Plants in the path of the plants does not alter metals, but it does behave and defy ways that understand the conventional chemist. The preparation of planetary tinctures liberates, purifies, and recombines in an exalted and form of the three principles in plants: the soul in sulfur, or the essential oil, the spirit in mercury, or the plant alcohol, hence spirit, and the body salt, or the alkaline, water-suitable salts. Plant alchemy, although it is not the biggest work, is an important part of your journey. So I just wanted to share that from one of my books. So in the sense of alchemy, I made these here. Taking gold and flowers. Let's see if I can get this open. So using it to alchemize this paper, if you all can see it. So I have flowers, and this is 24 karat gold, and aphrodisiacs and roses. And what this will do for you is combine an alchemic system of love and also healing. So I have this, and I have one for anxiety, I have one for sleep, I have one for energy, all mixing different botanicals with the gold. Gold is one of the most powerful and not misunderstood, but metals we just can't explain on our planet. So taking it into your body really makes a difference, especially if you're mixing it with plants. I know you're looking at it like, oh, it's gold. It's not like super fancy gold, guys. Like, it's not, this is purely like here to help people. And I also want to say, like, I know people think rolling papers, you think marijuana or cannabis, but that's not true. A lot of people, when you see them smoking, they're smoking lavender, or they're smoking hibiscus or chamomile. I make little mixtures all the time to ingest that way. I like ingesting plants in all different types of ways, but just wanted to show one of the ways that you can take plants and other essences. Oil, I have plants, and then the essence in the oil, and then the metal, all mixing together for a great alchemic surprise for you. So I just challenge all of you to go in your kitchen, go in your backyard, get that plant app that identifies all the plants that are around you. Just snap a picture and see what you can make with your plants. It may not be psychedelic, but I promise you will make medicine. I don't go to the pharmacy at all for my kids. Like honey, chamomile, lavender, Shanna, all of these things have kept my kids healthy for years now. I don't need to give them Tylenol. I make popsicles out of flowers and water, when they get sick, and honey, and they get better, because our bodies heal ourselves, and plants aid that. That's the way it's always going to be. There's a plant for every part of your body, period. You can find it, but it's always fun to go on a plant journey to see what's around the house.
Thank you so much, Zentia. Yes, I like that. It's like I'm going on a plant journey to discover plants, and it's like people think plant journey is like the psychedelic, but it's like no, like I'm going into the forest to be able to discover plants and to see which ones I can bring back to be able to make into tea and things like that. So yeah, there's a beautiful quote: "Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food," and absolutely like 100%. Like we've, as a society, it's quite obvious that a lot of our illness is the fact that we become separated from nature more and more and more. Everything is becoming processed, and this and this and fake and chemical and chemical and chemical. The closer we can get back to the natural things of nature, we realize like that is where the healing takes place. That is where the natural ability to change what our body is, because we eat what we become what we are, like literally on like a atomic level. If you're eating crap, you will become crap. Somehow people don't think that. They're just like, I just need to fill my stomach. It's like, no, you are literally becoming what you are eating. So again, like what Curtis was saying, if we can get back to the things like the plants, those are the closest things to light. Like that is like light in physical form. And so when you start bringing more of that into your body, of course it's going to be able to help change and literally like uplift your visceral vibration as well. And again, that's the thing, like through the working with these plants, that also makes it more capable to be able to go into these meditative states where we can naturally kind of get into the natural psychedelic experiences through the breath work and the meditation and the dream practices as well. And I know Allis actually has like a recipe that they want to be able to share related with some like different herbs and things that will be able to assist with dream practices and stuff. So Allis will talk a little bit more about that as we go. And then that's the thing, like there's so many things, and I know we kind of just hinted upon the idea that there's literally different plants and vegetables, fruits, and everything for different organs of the body, for different chakras even, and so like that's something just to kind of like think about, the idea that it's all interface, it's all so connected. Okay, let's keep things going around. I want to just be able to make sure everyone's getting a chance to be able to jump in here. So who want to go next? Did Leeza or Ren or Allis? Or making sure I'm not skipping over anybody. Okay, Ren, did you want to go next? Yeah. Okay, and Lauren was also here as well, but I think their camera's off. Okay, cool. All right, so we'll pass it over to Ren, and let's give a nice warm welcome to Ren. And Ren, when you're ready, go ahead, give us a introduction and tell us spiritual wisdom of plant medicine from your perspective.
Hi guys. So I'm so happy to be here. This is a topic that like means so much to me. So marijuana has like saved my life. Like legitimately, it's been demonized for so long. My family, especially my parents, like if you even bring it up to them, they're like, the devil's lettuce, like don't bring that into this house. But when I actually changed their minds a little bit about it, because I had to like use a story with them where about a year ago when I flew in to Seattle, because I was going into Alaska from Seattle to Alaska, I spent the majority of my flight puking and getting sick. Like from the time I got on, the entire time, I used up like 6 of those bags that they give you. Like it was bad. But I was like, nothing was helping. I was eating, I was drinking, I was taking essential oils even. I was like everything you could possibly do to help yourself. Nothing was working. I thought I was like going to go to the ER before even going to my trip. I was like, it's canceled. It's done. I'm just going to the hospital. And my boyfriend was like, listen, there's dispensaries here. They're legal. Like, why don't we try that out first? Because usually if I was nauseous, I would always smoke. And I kid you not, like within 10 minutes after like getting in and smoking, everything went away. I was like passed out in the airport. It was like that bad. And I used that story to tell my dad and my mom, like, listen, this is what it does for you. And they actually started changing their minds about it. And they're like, wow, I didn't know that marijuana was good for people with Alzheimer's or like Crohn's disease or anything. Like there's so many benefits to marijuana that people don't talk about. And I just really think it's a miracle plant in itself. Another thing that I really, really love is essential oils, especially doTERRA, because my mom sells for them. And so when I found out about doTERRA, I loved that they were a company that was like, we are 100% like what we say the plant is from. They will go to the source. Like, so let's say I think lavender is grown in France originally. They will go to France and get it directly from there. If it doesn't come out 100%, they scratch it. And they're like, nope, if it's 98, scratch it. It has to be 100%. And that to me is like amazing, because again, I had another issue where my boyfriend had a wart like type thing on his nose for like 8 months. He went to the doctor and the doctor was like, you might have a tumor. We have to do something about this. This might be cancerous. And we were freaking out about it. My mom was like, listen, helichrysum, frankincense, and one other oil, I forgot what it was. And I kid you not, within 2 weeks, when this doctor said, you have cancer, it went away. And it was like that for 8 months. And like, plants are amazing. And what they do when you ingest them or put them on your body is they work with you instead of against you. Like they want to work with your system. And like Zentia was saying, and Curtis was saying about plants, like they are literally miracles of like what we have. And we should not take that for granted living on this planet. Like our planet is like, half of it is greenery, you know, like, so why do we just take it as like, oh, I just am walking every day looking at grass? Like, no, it's so much more than that. And it's a part of us. We are plants, plants are us. So yeah, I just think plants are like healing. And if they didn't exist, I feel like I wouldn't exist, because it's completely helped my Crohn's when I was sick, when I was throwing up, like I said. It's been the only thing. So prescription drugs just made me worse and worse and worse over time. And just plants like have always saved, you know, like I have so many more stories, but yeah, those are the two biggest ones. Like, wow, this is amazing.
Thank you, Ren, for sharing, and yeah, you and many other people whose lives have literally been changed because of, again, the various plants and cannabis. And we haven't really talked too much about cannabis tonight, so if that's something that people want to be able to talk about a little bit more, absolutely. Again, I think sometimes it kind of gets like pushed to the side, but now it's legalized in a lot of places. So yeah, we can totally talk about intentional ways to be able to work with something such as cannabis or otherwise, or how we choose to work with it in different ways. Thank you again, Ren. Let's keep things rolling along here. Leeza, will pass it over to you, and then Allis, if you want to go after that, and Lauren, I know you're in here as well, so whenever you want to jump in after. Okay, so Leeza, and then either Allis or Lauren. Okay, Leeza, let's pass it over to you. Let's give a nice warm welcome to Leeza. Leeza, you know the drill, introduction, and then share your wisdom. Go right ahead.
Hello, everyone. I'm Leeza. You can find me on Instagram as Leeza Alley. So let's talk about cannabis, or Mary Jane, or ganja, or weed, pot, all the names. I have a very interesting experience with weed. It has definitely changed my life in ways I didn't think possible. And one of those ways, I kind of want to talk a little bit about the dark side of it as well. Because, you know, as above, so below. So the good things is, you know, we get that high. Many cultures, and in my own experience, I've found that it connects you to source. It connects you to the universe, your higher self. It's a way to help connect you to everything as one. In my experiences, when I've been under the influence, I'm like, oh. And I think it was Z who was talking about how you can, it like, drugs will and plants will take away a layer. And I found that with weed, that it kind of lifts that like 3D veil a little bit, and you're able to see things in a very different way. And so with that, it's like you're kind of unzipping if you have all your shadows in a little box, you're unzipping that box. And so a lot of times it can come through you as well, and you're in that's where the paranoia comes in. That's where the anxiety comes in. And a lot of, so like those negative emotions will come in when you're on something like marijuana, and it's, if you're not prepared for it, it can be very scary and it can be a very interesting experience. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit about an experience I had. And I was with a friend, and I took a dab, which is like the THC in like concentrated, and in like an oil. And so I did that, and I also smoked, and I got this like weird headache that, and everything went like kind of black, and I went and everything was super dizzy, and I felt like nauseous, and just like I had to close my eyes. And I don't know if anyone else realized it at the time, because I was with two of my friends, and I don't think they realized it, but I was just like there, and I was just visualizing all of this negative energy in front of me. And it was just like, okay. And I was just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then I kind of was able to release it. But I've also had times where I wasn't able to release it. I had to stop, and I had to separate myself from the situation, because it was just, it took over so much. So if you're dealing with like depression, anxiety, and a lot of shadows that you may not have worked through, if you haven't been doing shadow work, and you go under the influence of these drugs and these wonderful helpful drugs, it could be very jarring. And so we want to make sure that we're prepared going in. And I've seen, I haven't personally done any psychedelics, but yet, but I know people who have, that were not prepared, and they, you know, I think that's one of the reasons why I haven't done it yet, is because I was sitting for a friend who took some mushrooms, and allegedly, and so she just, I just saw the darkness around her, and I saw how dark she got. And it really scared me personally, because I was like, oh my God, like, is this what this does? Is this? And then I did more research into it, and I'm like, okay, I understand now, and I've seen other people, and the benefits that it has. But just know that, like, it, those shadow works, and it's very healing in some ways, and it's very, and even going to those dark places, that's maybe what you need at the time to get you out of those holes that you may have been in. And so that's kind of like the dark side I wanted to touch upon a little bit. But I also wanted to talk a little bit more about the awesomeness that it has had, the awesome effects it's had for me. I have personally dealt with anxiety and depression for most of my life, and I've noticed that when after I smoke, after I eat an edible, I I forgot who it was who said it, but I was able to see things in a more clear way. I think it was Neil who was talking about this, and how you're able to sort of see things in a clearer way. And it's like, I know what I have to do now, and it's like going to do it. And so I was able to say, oh, so that's where the anxiety is coming from. Here it is. And I was able to like see it in like a different way, like in like kind of like different dimension, I guess I'll say. And so, and yeah, your mind just kind of like blows, and like it's magical. And like that's why I believe in magic, because of like marijuana and the effects that I've seen through it. And I mean, I remember one of the first times I smoked, and I realized, I was like, colors have meanings. And I was like, okay. I was like, all right. So, and like everything was different colors, and everything was like, so it's like, I don't, like, some people say that marijuana is a psychedelic, some people don't. In my experience, it's kind of a psychedelic, but it's just something that I think I'm very, very glad that the stigma around it is starting to lift, and I'm very grateful for that. But I do think it's something that we need to make sure is more information is out there, which is why it's so great to have conversations like this, is to inform people about it before they just say, oh, well, that seems cool, let's just take it at a party. But no, like, remember that this is an experience that we're having, good, bad, and everything in between. It's an experience, it's something spiritual that we need to honor, rather than just take it for a good time. And that's very important, to know why you're taking it and have intentions when you're taking it. And I've noticed, because I did get a bit addicted at a point in my life, and I was taking it more than I probably should have. And I realized, like, I was taking it because I didn't want to feel the downs. I didn't want to feel the dark times, because you when you smoke marijuana, you get that high, and then after it starts to lull, you go deeper and you go down more, and as above so below. So you have to be able to balance that out. And so I was like addicted to that high, and I was like, I need it to keep going. And I think it was because all the shadows would come out, and I didn't want to face them. I didn't want to look at them. And so I had to be like, no, let's calm down and face that for a second. And then I was able to kind of recharge, and I took like a long break from any type of drugs, and I was like, let me just be in my headspace where I am. And then it's like I had a whole new realization, a whole new appreciation for marijuana and for these amazing effects that it can have, and also the shadow work that it induces. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Leeza, so much for sharing. Absolutely. Again, as we've talked about, like, yes, like there's a yin and a yang to everything. So as with all of them, I again, it's always important to be able to be very mindful and mature about how and when you're choosing to use things. It really invites you to be able to develop a deeper self-awareness and to really even just check in. It's like, is this serving me or is it just satisfying me? Because sometimes when we get to that point where it's just like, oh, it just becomes routine, it just becomes habit. There's usually like, if you can't fast from something like for 10 days at a time, then like there's something there that you need to look at. Like there's some sort of like addiction that can be building as well. And just real quick, and then we'll pass it over to the next person. I agree. Like when it comes to cannabis, with working with cannabis, I'll listen to my body in terms of like when is a good time for me to do it. And if I'm in a mood where like I already feel like down, I usually don't do it. Like I would actually kind of like prefer to do it from a place where I'm like feeling good and I'm like out exercising and I'm, out in nature. I'm getting ready to do some projects, some work, some creative brainstorming. I love working with cannabis and then working on art. And then of course, sometimes just using it for casual things, just to like relax, watch a movie, play a video game, and just kind of create that atmosphere as well. But just to be able to create some context. So, last week and everything like that, just using context where like a lot of the energy that I was focused around was like being there for my family, for my dog, for Dallin, and everything like that, with everything that was happening with this transitioning period. Much love, Dallin. And for me, like the idea of like doing smoking weed that week just wasn't appealing to me, because I'm like if I do that, I know it will just really put me into this thought train where it will just really kind of be like an uncomfortable setting where I'll hyper analyze things to the point where it would be like a type of discomfort that I wouldn't actually prefer. There are times where you can choose to be able to say like, you know what, I do got some deep stuff I need to look at, I do got some shadow work to look at, and then you work with it and then you choose to go there. But in that moment, I'm just like, no, like I'm already pretty sad. Me doing this isn't going to really help me. It'll just kind of like get me into some like hyper analyzed state. So that's where for me that week, it was an easy choice for me to just be like, you know what, being sober for me is actually what I need right now. And so again, being aware of where and when, and developing a relationship with particularly cannabis, but also any of these. And as Leeza said, really inviting yourself into that practice where you prepare ahead of time, where you prepare as much as you're feeling called to do before you begin working with these psychedelics and things. And again, even with the other with any of the other like herbs and things like that also have an effect on us within like our cognitive perception and everything like that. There was a note, Ren, is your username is the Florentino in the chat? Is that you? Or is that somebody else? No? Okay. I'm not sure if somebody else here was Florentino, but I know there was just a comment because it has like the word Ren in it. I just wasn't sure. But I know you got your other username. That's right. So there was a comment there in the chat that I think was interesting, and I'll just say here and then pass it off, where the idea is that where it was basically saying that like once you become familiar with like the vibrational frequency of cannabis, like you can actually begin to like get good at returning to that frequency from a sober place. Which is an interesting prospect, and I know a lot of people would probably have something to share on that as well. So again, you know, it's like they show you how to access these high vibrational experiences, and then we can begin to find our way back there through self-awareness, breath work, mindfulness, moving energy, and things like that. Let's keep things moving along here. Lauren or Allis, who wants to go next? Allis, we'll pass over to you, and then Lauren, if you want to go after that, we'll do that, and then at that point we'll just get into popcorn style. Let's give a nice warm welcome to Allis. And Allis, when you're ready, go ahead, introduce yourself, and tell us what you'd like to share about plant medicine. Welcome.
Hello, Allis Well here. I'm really excited to talk more about cannabis. I originally was just like, yeah, I'm going to talk about this tea stuff, but it really does sort of tie into it, because I felt like the first plant that ever really like spoke to me and came to me was cannabis. So I feel like my roots are there. So I'll start with that a little bit. I really love cannabis because I feel like it opens me up to things, and it relaxes me in a way that things don't they're not as scary anymore. So I really needed that at a certain point during my like mental health journey, right? So I needed that so that I could access those things. But then I took a number of months off from it. This was a number of years ago. And during that time period is when I started going to the Shambhala Center, like the Buddhist center that you can kind of find them in any city. And I started meditating at that point. So I needed time away from cannabis, and it was like this cyclical relationship. I discovered meditation. I was like, oh, wow, this is it. And then basically when I went back to it, I was like, this is it. So I really needed, the times that we recognize things, it comes in and out of our life. And it's definitely, yeah, it's just been amazing for me. I also I pulled out this book. I was trying to see if there was a point in it, but so this is Transformation of America. It's the true story of the CIA mind control slave, Kathy O'Brien and Mark Phillips. I don't know if anyone's read it, but cannabis is really useful for when you're consuming anything that you think might have like undertone to it. So if you're watching like a very mainstream event on TV or something, and you really want to watch it, you can still watch whatever you want, but you can really protect yourself by smoking beforehand. So, and it just allows you to see what's going on, and you're just like, oh, because you make those links, and you're like, I recognize the symbology in this. I recognize like this might have some subtext in it. I don't know. But it's great to know how to actually interact with, your world. You can still consume whatever you want to, but we have plants that allow you to consume whatever you want. So that's just my 2 cents on that. So I've also noticed if I'll take an edible, I walked into this town once. I won't say which town it was, but I took an edible, and I felt like I was like, oh, I'm not high. And then I looked around and I was like, oh my God, I can just like see everything. It was so strange. But that is something, I think because I got to a point where like I was using it all the time and could kind of also enact throughout my life, and it ebbs and wanes depending on and if I need it or not, and if I do or don't. But you just start seeing the world in a different way where, Kai and I were even kind of like, oh, you just don't get that. You just don't get like crazy passed out anymore. You almost like surpass the ability for it to like really deeply harm you. It's almost kind of like you reach like a stopping point. So eventually, what I feel was that sort of spirit also introduced lavender to me. So at the beginning of my awakening, like a couple of months, like actually 7 or 8 months ago, I started seeing lavender everywhere, and I recognized that was a part of it. Lavender, the root word of it. I like root words and that sort of thing, and like anything that has wordplay, and that also goes along with washing and having it be like a cleansing experience. So when I smoke lavender with cannabis at the same time, I think of that as kind of a washing experience. So that leads me into this tea, because I also was like, well, I don't always necessarily want to be smoking, but I want to still, yeah, I'm interested in herbs now, and that it felt like that connection was there. So these are all of the herbs that I've been, when I want to have like a psychic tea, an experience where I feel that out of body experience. And these herbs, it's usually for lucid dreaming or something like that, or a time when you're just chilling out and like want to connect and meditate at the same time. So this is what I found. So I have some things beforehand. When you're trying something new, even if it resonates with you right away, obviously look it up. If you're on any medications, look it up. So because just because sometimes that's still an opportunity to practice our discernment, even if something winds up not being for us and we thought it was. Before we actually use our, you can do this with your cannabis too, any of your dried herbs, really connecting with and holding them and talking to them and kind of awakening them a little bit. If we think of dried herbs as like a sleeping herb, it's like a live plant is when it's in the ground, right? But when it's dried, its powers and its spirit is dormant. So you have to talk to it and commune with it and say, what are you getting out of this relationship between the two of you? Because it is a relationship with them. And to know the source of your herbs. So you're talking about that, knowing the history of where you get even kind of anything, because it has a history of its own. So you can, I found a lot of tea shops on Etsy and stuff, but also any like local cooperative grocery store. That's where I get my dried herbs from. So I've got lavender, mugwort, and mugwort is really great. Black sage. Mugwort is so good for like everything too. I smoke it too. If I'm not smoking cannabis, I'll smoke mugwort still. And yeah, it's like, I think it's going to be one of those things you can just kind of use it for everything. Mugwort's amazing though. Vervain is great for lucid dreams. Kava kava is, I feel like it prevents me from taking anything too seriously. Again, these funny, I've come to these independently, like of just like this little independent research and connecting them together. So I don't 100% know I know like their feeling, like I know the spirit of all of these, and there's actually a couple of other ones that I was working with, but I don't feel like I know their spirit enough to talk on them to like be like, I'm pretty sure this will work for you. So I don't actually know exactly, but I know that for Vervain, I'm like, it's connected to lucid dreaming. Kava kava is connected to like not taking things as seriously. It makes me feel like really hot and like tingly and like, that's fun. And then rosebuds is the last one. And this one's so important. If you only take 2 herbs out of this, I'd say mugwort and rosebuds, crushed rosebuds, because my spirit team wanted to, this is particularly the phrase, which was that rosebuds represent love because it is both as powerful as it is beautiful and sweet. It's like a really great representation for it because it's very powerful. There's a reason that women in particular, the divine feminine working with roses is like ancient. There's a reason that women always had rose water around. It wasn't just because it smelled good, it was because it was also very powerful. So connecting with roses, if you connect with being a divine feminine, is wonderful. Is just like, I really highly recommend. So, and I also put that, so if you do any sort of smoking combination, also putting rose in makes it taste a little bit better. But yeah, I think ultimately a lot of these herbs just show us that they like, I loved actually Leeza and Z, whatever conversation you had before where it takes the layer away. That's exactly what it is. These plants are really just kind of like opening a door for us to like venture out and explore. And that's what's so beautiful about it. It's like a real co-creation. So this is I'm going to put it on my Instagram. But these are just the herbs that I found all together. And then if you put some honey and like stevia, you got a good drink there. So
Awesome. Thank you, Allis. And again, if you guys want to follow up with Allis, be sure to check out them on Instagram at Awakened Atlas. And maybe if there's any other additional questions, maybe they can reach out to you there as well. Is that okay, Allis? That's cool. Cool. Awesome. Sweet. Thank you so much. Okay, let's keep passing things around. Lauren, did you want to jump in next? Yeah. Okay. All right. So we'll just thumbs up, Lauren. Am I passing it to you next? Is that cool? Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Okay. So let's pass it over to Lauren. And then from there, we'll just kind of let the conversation go a little bit further and we'll get things wrapped up probably within about like 45 minutes, give or take. So let's give a nice warm welcome to Lauren. And Lauren, go ahead, share a little bit about plant wisdom from your perspective and any other introduction. Welcome, Lauren.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Thanks for sharing your stories. It was so amazing to hear everyone's wisdom and perspectives on everything. So the spiritual wisdom of plant medicine, there's so many different ways to go about this. And so my partner, he has chronic Lyme disease, and I guess this is where I'm going into it. So he went through a lot of different ways of Western medicine and going through different types of regular medicine, but naturopathic medicine and plant medicine was really where it healed him after years and years of working through different types of antibiotics and really killing a system. It was through plant medicine that has so much wisdom. So I just love plant medicine on so many different levels, not only the psychedelic level, but yeah, so much wisdom it has from how it can heal us from inside out, and really just so many different areas of how we can heal ourselves through naturopathic ways. But let's see, spiritual wisdom of plant medicine in my perspective. I've done many psychedelics before. And my first experience with psychedelics and mushrooms was in college, and we were in a lot of concrete, so I wasn't around. I didn't have nature around me, so I did feel that buzzing of the anxiety, like I feel like Curtis was mentioning, where you feel the buzzing a lot, and you're like, how do I get rid of this? But the more you just allow it to be, I know my friends are like, you're not gonna, that's just part of the trip. You just go into it, and you have to let yourself go into it with an open mind. Whatever is going to come is going to come. Of course, you can set your intentions and have great intentions for a trip, but if the shadow is going to come, it's going to come. It's going to shake you awake. It's going to show you traumas in the world and really what you need to see, because being naive is a shadow in itself. So really, if it's a bad trip, it's not a bad trip. It's meant to be there, and it's meant to show you so many different things, so many different wonders about the world. And so in college, I was feeling this anxiety, and I was with a bunch of friends, and they're like, it's not going to go away. But I'm like, wait. So I run away in my dorm room, and I was a design major. So I pull out a bunch of sheets of paper and a bunch of acrylic paints, and I start just hand painting everything. And I'm just so involved in this. I get lost in time. Time doesn't even matter. And I have paints all over the place, just blue and yellows and reds. And it was so much fun just to finger paint like a child. I hadn't done it in years and years. And I felt that mind-body connection. And that's where the anxiety, it didn't matter. The buzzing of the scared effect of the psychedelic didn't matter, because I was playing. I really connected to my body. And my friends, I went alone. I was like, I need to be alone and just process this alone, because sometimes the trip in itself, you can have great friends around certain parts, but then some parts of your journey, you might be like, I just need to process alone for a little bit. So gonna head away. And then, so they came back to visit and make sure I was okay. But the walls were completely covered in paints. And I was like, the anxiety went away, guys. It's fine. So that was my first experience with psychedelics. And this is before any type of spiritual awakening really I ever had. And again, it was like concrete surrounding me. So I think that's half the reason for the anxiety, because when you trip, you really want to ground, you want to connect with nature. And if you have the opportunity to be able to put your feet in the dirt and just feel into the ground, you're going to have such a more pleasant experience. So I've also had multiple DMT experiences, 2 of them. And my second one was in 2020, so this year. And we went in the backyard. So it was great setting, great intention setting, only a couple of us, not very many, just my boyfriend and another person. And we took it, and it's usually 15 minutes it happens. So you set your intention for it and you just blast off. It's just kind of a blast off. And you start to see the dimensions of the world. I like to call it like the breathing of the earth. You could see the earth breathing in itself. And as you go a little further, we saw the stars were out, and they were so beautiful, and they were moving. And they were moving in each other and creating sacred geometry, and you could really see geometry in the world as you're going further and further. And some people go into what's called a waiting room when they're in DMT, and you might not connect with a certain other being in a dimension or time. You might see some marsh or just different aspects, but this time I was able to connect with an African woman, and she was so beautiful, and she was mixing things in her kitchen, and she was speaking such wisdom, and I just kind of like happened upon her kitchen. And she looked at me just with her eyes and strength, and she had so much wisdom, and it wasn't through the words that the wisdom happened. It was just her presence and the knowledge that she had. And if she's someone that exists in this world that I connected with, that would be beautiful, because that is possible. Of course, in the quantum, you're just out, and if you're on that same presence, your same plane of either tripping or whatever you're doing, you might be able to connect with someone else that's also on that plane in the quantum, and it's pretty wild to see. So that was really beautiful, and I could hear the crickets. It was in the summertime, so there's also the neurolinguistics of everything, the sound and the smells really combining with the psychedelics, and being mindful in every little experience that you're enjoying with it. The smells and the sounds are so important, and just falling into creativity and playfulness and childhood, because those shadows might come up, and it is a wave. It really is a wave of just embracing it and allowing it to kind of flow through your body, feeling the different vibrations of what might be blocked and what might not be. And there's so many discoveries that can be had with the spiritual wisdom of plant medicine, either shrooms or other psychedelics, and DMT, ayahuasca. Ayahuasca, I have not done. And I think Neil before was talking about the frogs. One of my friends also does that, where you use frogs to scrape off pieces of your body and like heal yourself. I think that's another way to heal Lyme disease too. But anyway, I've had a couple of friends that have done ayahuasca, and really it's an expansion of our own consciousness. So we're expanding our consciousness very far out, and you might lose little pieces of things. So grounding is really important. People do burial ceremonies after ayahuasca retreats, where they literally dig their own graves and bury themselves into the earth to be able to ground themselves and collect their souls back into their bodies. So that's something that's done after ayahuasca, which I thought was really interesting to learn and hear about, because you don't really know what's going to happen when you go into those types of ceremonies. And I'm excited definitely to try and go into that very soon. I know it's a lot of purging of the shadows, but I think we're ready for it at this point. So that's what I have on some psychedelics. Love you guys.
Thank you, Lauren. Love you as well, and beautiful shares there. So again, at this point, we'll just kind of get into just like popcorn style discussion, and just speaking on DMT. Quick show of hands: has anybody else here experienced DMT allegedly? It's not. It's like one of the less common. Okay, so a couple of us had and stuff like that. DMT, I remember being incredibly fascinated by it, like long before I had the experience of even working with it. And again, DMT, if we're being technical, is still a plant medicine. Like it's literally like the molecule itself is literally found in grass. Like it's found in like some pretty basic common stuff, but then it's just a matter of again, I'm not the scientist to be able to explain it properly, but it's like basically like getting things down to like a crystalline state. And it's like when smoked, which it commonly is, it's like raw nature, it's like raw code. But from my experiences with working with DMT, which I did way back in the day as an intentional medicine, it was so visceral. And again, going back to this idea of pulling back the layers, pulling back the filter, and to explain it very simply, ways I've explained before, is basically this idea that it was like seeing the code of the Matrix. Like that was one of the best ways I could see it. It's like, oh my goodness, we're literally surrounded by like this sacred golden geometry unfolding infinite light all the time, and we're not separate from it. Like it's literally like in there and you become it. One things that I've experienced with DMT and if you ever get the opportunity, and again, this is like DMT can be produced naturally in your brain, and we'll always go back to that idea that, you know, yes, we're talking about this, we're hyping up all these ideas of what can be experienced, but yes, at the same time, your dreams are psychedelic, breath work is psychedelic, meditation can be psychedelic. The word psychedelic, again, I kind of relate to the idea of literally being like psyche, mind, and then like delic, delos, meaning God. So it's literally the process of like meeting mind and God. So when we're having these psychedelic experiences, it is a very awe-inspiring experience. It is very much like meeting God, but you realize that God is everything. God is all around us. God is what we are, so to speak, if we're using the term God from that context. But one thing that I've noticed with DMT, because again, there's different ways you can do it, and I'll just share here real quick, is again, you can kind of work with DMT and kind of close your eyes and turn inwards. That can be one way to do it. But one thing that I've found from my experience, and this can be for other psychedelics, is to like do DMT or anything really during like sunrise and sunset, and then to actually do like eye gazing while working with these medicines. And so again, eye gazing, this whole topic in itself, if you're doing it safely, it can be done again when the sun's like just near the horizon and you can look at the sun properly. Be smart about it. Again, don't stare into it when it's like up in the sky and everything. But one thing that I did notice is that when working with DMT, is that when doing it just with my eyes closed on my own, that wasn't like totally, I didn't totally like blast off. But when I was sun gazing, it like activated and amplified, and really just kind of in this moment, it's like the world just, it's really trippy, because again, a lot of people are talking about this idea of like, oh, like we're in a simulation, like we're in the Matrix and stuff like that. Like this has been kind of a trend on TikTok. People are kind of joking about this, and they're not joking, because they're actually like waking up to it. And that for me was again, when you're doing these DMTs experiences or any of the psychedelic experiences, you're just like, oh my goodness, like I can see the simulation, like whatever the frick we're in is this like primordial, ancient, spiritual, psychedelic magic, but at the same time, it's also like code. It's like ones and zeros. It's language. Like the code of the universe is literally language and shapes and sounds. Like it's super, super freaking trippy. So that's where, again, with psychedelics, it can literally kind of give you that perspective of being able to like see the simulation. But the word simulation isn't the word that I put on it. I'm just putting on it. That's because what a lot of people put on it. But it is holographic. Whatever this is, it's an incredibly beautiful, magical space, and we are a part of that. And that's where, again, these experiences can really just activate and like bring to the surface this remembrance of like, oh my God, this life is incredibly beautiful, and I am a part of it. And I remember from my DMT experience, the big thing that it brought back with me was just like the knowing that this was something that all of us intuitively knew, whether or not we had immediately remembered it, and then feeling called to be able to help create communities and create paradigm shift and create sacred space that would eventually hold space for people to be able to have these aha moments in their own way, whether it be through psychedelics or just like becoming aware of sacred geometry and dreams and things like that. But I remember when I had my psychedelic experience, one of the things that I felt called to do was like to tell my parents, where I was like, Mom, like you have no idea, like this reality is so freaking beautiful. And she's like, I know, Brendon. And I'm like, no, like seriously, it's so freaking beautiful. Like I know it was beautiful before, but like now I'm just like having had that experience, it's like everything was just like this extra layer of magic. So that's where, again, when you have these psychedelic experiences, when they are those ones that become very powerful and uplifting, it's something that we become ambassadors for that energy and that wisdom to be able to carry it with us into the world. And that's where, as artists, I think it's again, you know, it's kind of like being an astronaut, a psychonaut, where we go on this journey not purely just for ourselves, but on behalf of the collective consciousness, to be able to bring something back and then bring it back into the collective community. So that's where, again, not everyone's going to feel the call to be a psychonaut, but for those of us who do, there's an objective, there's like a mission, there's a responsibility, in addition to just whatever you need it for your own personal journey as well. So let's keep the talking stick going around here. Z, I'll pass it over to you, and then from there we'll just kind of keep things going, and we'll wrap things up probably within a half hour, give or take. Go ahead, Z, anything you want to jump in on?
Okay. Hey. So, It's crazy because Neil started the conversation off and we kind of got into psychedelics and throughout the broadcast I remembered like actually we're talking about plant medicine. People started bringing up mugwort, etc. And like being a naturopathic doctor, that had been my life. Like literally it was to heal people with plant medicine. So I just wanted to make a few points, which basically is that a lot of the drugs that we use today in pharmaceutical companies are actually come from plants, you know. One of the most famous ones is the semi-synthetic drug like aspirin, and it came from Salix alba, you know. That was actually, I think, one of the first ones ever to be synthesized with Bayer in the 1800s, basically. And it's just, I mean, there's so many examples. There's like Silybum marianum, which created silymarin, and that's used for treatment of liver diseases. And then I don't know if you guys know atropine. That came from Atropa belladonna, which by the way was used to help beautify women back in the day. They would literally, so their pupils would be dilated and their eyes would be larger. But a lot of these pharmaceutical drugs literally come from plants. And one example that I remember more is something called digitoxin. Okay, and that's extracted from a foxglove plant from the leaves, which is called digitalis. Okay, and it's like these little red berries also on it. It's really cool. Like these are just like plants you can actually see out and about. At the same time, they can be very poisonous too, depending on the amount you have. So, and just with this example, so that digitoxin, they extract something called digoxin, okay, which is a cardiac glycoside. And what that does is it helps to inhibit the sodium potassium pump, which then increases the amount of intracellular sodium in the body in the actual muscle, which increases the amount of calcium ions that are in the sarcoplasmic reticulum, aka the muscles. And with that increased calcium, it creates more forceful contractions of the cardiac muscle, which allow the heart to work more efficiently. So that's like the example of like this one flower and plant that has created this drug that people use for heart diseases, right? But the thing about like how it's extracted, like one thing that I really like to focus on when it comes to plant medicine is that it is a whole plant for a reason. We take it and we apply this reductionist method to then, you know, be able to patent it and then create a pharmaceutical drug for it, which can be helpful for extreme cases, but the whole plant actually has a synergistic effect on the body. It was created the way it was for a reason in itself, you know, by consciousness for its own purpose. And so it's like trying to step away from the linear model, the reductionist model, which is what pharmaceutical drugs are, to like a heuristic model, which is like a diagram of all the different reactions that take. I mean, one example is like vitamin D affects over 200 enzymes in your body. Okay, 200 different reactions in your body. So how can you take one thing and expect only one thing to change? That's the linear model that pharmaceuticals do. It's like, oh, let me add serotonin here, and that will help you with your symptom, and that will solve your problem. Actually, no, like that will affect down the line all the other neurotransmitters as well, which will affect the rest of your body. And that, I think, plants help as a whole to have that synergistic effect. And I think that is like my most important takeaway for the wisdom of plant medicine is that they are whole for a reason, you know. And it's great that we can take certain aspects of it and apply it, but I think we are so missing out on medicines, you know, when we're not actually understanding the holistic parts of it. And yes, we separated for like the last 30 years, and we're like coming back to it now. Like, I mean, even when I started naturopathic medical school, 2014. I was totally made fun of. I was like, you know, people are like, what are you doing? Like, why would you go there or whatever? And it was just, are you a witch doctor? Like, I still get that today. Like, people still are weird about it, but I don't really care because I know, obviously, you guys would understand. And now we're coming up. Like, people are like, oh yeah, my naturopath saved me. I'm like, oh, you don't say. And also, I do want to say, as much as I appreciate all the naturopaths out there, please do find a naturopathic doctor. Honestly, it is a big fucking difference when you have to clinically go and understand, you know, conditions, especially when there are comorbidities involved, and you have to like clinically go through with like people mentoring you through the process through medical school versus people who are just taking like an online certificate and then like self-proclaimed. So like there are 6 schools in America and Canada where you can get an actual doctorate degree, where you have 2 years of didactic courses, you have to take boards, and then you have 2 years of clinicals. And my clinicals involve like pediatrics and cardiology and just like working with addiction and rehab centers in that way. And just it really makes a difference. Otherwise it could be just people just like kind of shooting in the dark, which is the same as like conventional medicine. You're just kind of hoping the one size fits all strategy works, and a lot of naturopaths can be that way too. So again, it's up to you and your provider, the connection you have for the plant medicine, et cetera, to take place. But I do just want to say, like, try to like be sure, because not every state has regulations. So someone can call themselves a naturopathic doctor, they're not, like in some states, So just to be mindful of that. And this word naturopathic has been fucking stolen, like corrupted, and like called pseudoscience and pseudo medicine and all these things, like quacks. We're called quacks. Like, it's really sucks. Like, I paid a lot of money for my degree, and a lot of experience was gained from it, and I understand that industry really well, and I got what I wanted out of it. But it sucks. It sucks sometimes. So thank you guys for understanding, again, about plant medicine, and to beware of who you do see as a doctor, because I have seen like the negative side of that. So for people who have found like the right naturopath, like, kudos to you. There's a lot of naturopathic doctors that are literally they're experts of plant medicine. Like, that's what they went to school for. Still looking for people. Like, they're the bridge between naturopathic doctors and plant medicine experts and people who need them is not there. That I actually came from that into Vibio, where I'm like, oh, okay, actually it's not just naturopathic doctors, like all healers cannot find people to heal, even though there's a lot of them on both sides of this equation. How do I make the bridge? So I was making the bridge for doctors and patients, and now I'm applying that knowledge and experience to all healers and all people with Vibio. But yeah, so plant medicine is something really incredible, obviously. And I don't know. I was thinking about psychedelics and stuff, and I was like, oh wait, we're talking about this right now. Okay.
That's perfect. Thank you, Z again. So much knowledge to be able to share, and who knows, maybe Z might feel inspired to do a Vibio exclusive presentation on things that they've learned over the years. That I would love to see that. Like it's kind of the idea, right? Like, we all have this different wisdom, so here we got this opportunity. So make sure you guys are following Vibio apps. Stay tuned for March Mentors. You guys got the memo on that one, I assume. Cool. Z, FYI, if you're jumping back on the mic at some point, if you want to switch over your phone device, the audio on that's a bit better compared to your laptop. So just to give you a heads up if you felt like doing that. So let's just keep bouncing things around. I know there's a lot of stuff to be able to share. I was going to mention like the things I've learned from psychedelics from my TikTok video, but I'll do that later, just to be able to invite anybody else who feels called to be able to jump back in. People that we haven't heard from since the beginning of the broadcast, Mason, Kai, if either of you or anybody else. Let's just continue this conversation. Again, we're kind of talking about psychedelics, but we're also talking about plant medicine. So whatever else you guys want to bring into the circle, we'll keep going, and we'll go for about maybe like 20 more minutes, and then we'll get close to wrapping this up. Who would like to be able to jump back in with some more perceptions and even just ideas or ways in which plant medicine has been integrated, or even just like the future that you might foresee, things that you hope for, anything of that nature? Curtis, Mason. Okay, we'll pass over to Mason, then Curtis. So Mason, when you're ready, go right ahead and jump right back in.
Thank you. Yeah, speaking on the vision of what I see, I have this dream of what it would be like if we were able to create environments where we could have these intentional spaces all around the world where people could come and heal with whatever tools they wanted, whatever they desired. And then there were people that were trained in each of those tools in order to help people best on, like, go along with their journey, whether it's with medicinal mushrooms or it's just cannabis or something even less potent. Like we were talking earlier about oils like rose and other herbs like mugwort. Just wondering what like explorations could be done if that was put forth like in effort by a bigger community than just a smaller group of people saying like, oh, it'd be a good idea. Like, I'm curious where it would go if that was truly being incorporated everywhere.
I love the idea of particularly like psychedelic plant medicines actually becoming an integral part of society, much like how it was traditionally used within like Aboriginal cultures of various sorts, where like as young men and women mature, having a spiritual journey with assistance of the plant medicine was actually part of it. And again, the whole nother note here, like when you listen to some of like the Aboriginal tribes of how they talk about like ayahuasca and stuff, you know, there's this very interesting idea where if you were to ask them, be like, how did you know? Because like ayahuasca, it's like a combination of like multiple different things. It's like a tree bark, plus it's like a couple other things. But basically their perspective is like, oh, like the plants told us how to be able to combine them and mix them and taught us what their purpose was for. So this is this idea that you can literally like meditate while sober otherwise and literally like connect with the consciousness and the spirit and the wisdom of these plants. You know, like they're a being like us, they're a consciousness like us, they just are in a different form, but within it they do have this wisdom. And that's where, again, when you're working with ayahuasca, cannabis, any of these ones, each one has like a different vibe to it, like a different personality to it. It's a different teacher in its own way, and sometimes we'll feel more called to work with different teachers at different times. So I'd be curious if anybody here has kind of like felt or has some perspectives on like the spirits of different plants. And again, that can be something that even relates beyond just like the psychedelic experience. But we'll pass over to Curtis next, and then from there we'll just keep going. So Curtis, passing it over to you, and Mason, thank you again. Go ahead, Curtis.
Yeah. You've actually mentioned some times about a village-like scenario of everyone kind of coming together and harmoniously living. And that is actually the revolution that is placed in a higher dimension that we're supposed to be living in right now. I mean, I have Native American roots, and I kind of feel like that there's a part of me that really belongs in that kind of setting, because I feel connected with the ground, you know, and it's like we're symbiotically using psychedelics and living off the earth and having, you know, vegetables and stuff like that. But in reality, like, I mean, okay, so I like work out and stuff, and I like, I take protein, you know, all this stuff. But Z mentioned there's like all this there's so much processed stuff, and we're lacking, like they have soy protein isolate, all this whey protein isolate. They're just basically taking a soybean, all of its good nutrients that it has, and reducing it just to protein. And literally that's not doing anything. I mean, yes, if you could use it, but you're really not getting much benefit from the actual soybean. And in reality, you know, you're getting much more benefit from actually ingesting plants, whole foods, and yeah, really connecting with that. We're hand in hand with plants. We're guiding ourselves. You know, we have our higher selves guiding us. We also have, and my vision for the village is something that I've been doing a lot of research in permaculture design and food forests that I really have really want to start working on. Is it takes a long time to form. You start with prime plants, primary plants, native plants, or whoever, all the primary plants, and it takes 7 years to kind of get established, and it takes like decades to get a whole system established where you're using perennial plants. Those are plants that food crops that come year after year. And I just imagine the whole system of, like, you know, surround a food forest that goes intertwines with the village, and we're all just, abundance is there, and we're just here to observe and take care of what is already growing and make it better. I mean, that is the whole purpose of us as humans. And that's the whole purpose of consciousness, this Fibonacci spiral that is literally, you see something and we're helping each other. It's just healing each other. We're just like leaves covering each other for shade. We're just growing up, 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 and around like a Fibonacci spiral. And that's how we're supposed to live. And that's natural. So I feel like we should always be ourselves. And yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Curtis. Absolutely beautiful image. And again, like as we take care of the earth will take care of us. So really feeling the call towards that symbiotic relation. So Curtis, thank you, dude. Beautiful. Awesome. Okay, team, we're going to keep things passing along. I know Samantha was able to join us, so welcome to Samantha. And Samantha, we can pass over to you whenever you're ready. So if you want us to pass over to you, just give us a thumbs up. And we've been on air for a little bit, so we're getting closer to the end, but give everybody here an opportunity to share on their relationship with plant medicine, how it has perhaps changed their life, and again, in the context of it being psychedelics or just plant medicine in the broader context of just like health and nutrition and that relationship as well. So Samantha, thumbs up. Did you want us to pass it over to you next? Okay, cool. So we'll pass it over to Samantha, and then from there, again, we'll just kind of get into one more round around the circle with any additional closing thoughts. Again, I know this could easily be like a 10-hour long conversation, and I think this is an ongoing conversation, and I encourage the people here to perhaps even create like additional discussion circles as well to give more space in the community for these discussions to be had ongoing. So with that said, we'll pass it over to Samantha. Samantha, thank you so much for joining. Please feel free to briefly introduce yourself and share a little bit about the spiritual wisdom of plant medicine from your perspective. Welcome, Samantha.
Hey, so happy to be back. I feel like I haven't sat with you guys on air in so long, and it just like I love these like hugs that we get to give each other virtually through the ether. Just like by sitting here, I come into the space and I just hear everyone sharing and see everyone sharing their energy, and it feels so good. And like popping in even before just watching a little bit of the live stream was really fun to be back. So I wanted to say that. I'm also really, really, really grateful that this week we are going along with the Thank You Plant Medicine theme. I'm really lucky to have worked with the people who created Thank You Plant Medicine Day, the global movement. I've been working as their social media manager for the past year. I met Jonathan, one of the two co-founders at Horizons, which is a psychedelic conference in New York City. And I personally have had a lot of amazing transformative experiences with psychedelics, entheogens, plant medicines. I've worked, with the synthetics, and I've worked with the natural medicines and these master plants as well with shamans around the world. I've been lucky to sit with ayahuasca in Peru a couple times, ayahuasca as well in Thailand. Sitting with her is what a powerful experience. I feel like I've been met with, Mother Nature herself. I feel like I've been met with ayahuasca herself. I've been met with my higher self for real, like almost like a superhero type me came down one of my ayahuasca sessions and was like sitting with me through it while I was purging. And I was like, holy shit, that's me. And I even connected with the energy of Mother Nature and ayahuasca herself in almost that same essence of just, the oneness of that's me as well. Even if like it's knowing that like this greater power is out there, this higher power is out there. Yes, but I am connected to that so deeply, so intrinsically. And so working with Washuma, one of the most like grounding, San Pedro is another name that they call it, which is the cactus medicine. I got to walk like a 10-mile hike through the Incan trails in Peru, and most of it was in silence, and most of it was just connecting with the land. There were different waterfalls that we would stop at and cleanse ourselves under, and just these experiences that we get to have connecting with these plants, these beings that carry this ancient wisdom that I want to say they have their own encodings, but I feel like just awaken the encodings that are within ourselves as well. They're just these reminders, because I like to think that, like, you know, we were created in essence, all of the beings and all of the things on this planet are all the same, right? But humans were here given with serious cases of amnesia. And sometimes our amnesia gets reactivated even when we get woken up. And then we get reawakened by these plant medicines or these experiences, whether it's trauma or whatever it have you be. But yeah, I'm just really, really grateful for the experiences that I have had through these medicines, whether it's, you know, those master plants, or I mean, who's to even say that psilocybin's not necessarily a master plant as well? But we're looking at it's you know, we can't compare that. It's like apples and oranges. They're so completely different, but also so not, right? Like, I don't know if I'm making any sense. I feel like I could be babbling at this moment right now, but what I'm saying is thank you, plant medicine, and thank you for having this. You know, I can go on to the list of experiences I've had in working with the frog medicines, Bufo and Combo. Incredible experiences. Combo, I literally thought I was going to die. I asked the medicine man to take it out of me. He was like, no, you don't. That there's no taking it out of you at this point. We go through what you're going to experience. I experienced what felt like a near-death experience, and then became so at peace with that. And yeah, so much acceptance and gratitude through Combo. But it's a very powerful experience. And one thing I can say is any of these bigger experiences, if you're feeling called to do it, then yes, please do your research and go experience it. But don't ever by any means go and say, I think I have to have this psychedelic experience or an experience with the plant medicine because someone said that if I do ayahuasca, then I'm going to have 12 years of, or, you know, what, I don't even know what the saying is. It's like a whole lifetime. Yeah. A whole lifetime of therapy in a 12-hour session or something like that. Don't do it because of that. Do it because you feel called to it, because I'm promising you, like, these spirits of these medicines are going to call to you. They're going to say, okay, you're ready to experience me, or this is the right path. And also be wary of, you know, psychological propensities that you may have to like certain disorders. You know, what's really interesting is about that is that psychedelics can actually be of great help to psychological disorders and addictions and all of those things, and they can also be of great harm to them. So it's super necessary to do your research, and again, go towards what you feel resonant with and what you feel called towards. And I'll wrap it up really quick. I know we're at the end. I don't want to take up too much time, but I know I've even shared, I think on one of these broadcasts, that like I personally have experienced recently a time where I felt, you know, my use with like marijuana was excessive. I mean, it was, and almost to a point of addiction. So I had to go work with myself and go completely clean from that. And so I'm working from a point of like experimentation and intuition. So whenever I feel called back to, if I ever feel called back to plant medicines or psychedelics, then great, awesome. But I may have already like experienced what I needed to experience with those medicines, with those spirits, and it may never be something that I need again. And that's something, that's the reason why I wanted to be very upfront and honest with the experience I was going through for a few months there, because I think it's important to talk about, because we do talk about how, yes, these are transformational and they're amazing and they're very powerful, and we should 100% be bringing education and accessibility to people, and all of that. Yes, please, let's break the stigma. But in order to truly break the stigma, we need to also face the facts that there are people who don't need to ever have psychedelic experiences. They shouldn't. That's a fact. There are people who abuse these and are chasing a high, and they will use the idea of thank you plant medicine or the transformational effects or the healing effects as a guise to hide behind it so that they can feed a desire and an addiction. You know, so we need to face those truths while also advocating for the use of them in the proper ways, with the right education, with the right set and setting. All of that is super important. Again, I thank you so much, Brendon, for putting this together. And I thank you, plant medicine, again. Just continue sharing your stories, continue helping break the stigma, and continue asking questions, doing your research, all that good stuff. And I'm sending you guys a lot of love. Over and out.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Samantha. I'm so glad that you're able to join. And thank you again for, I love the fact that you've been so involved with the Thank You Plant Medicine social media campaign. It's obviously been such a powerful success just to, again, help destigmatize and also celebrate how these medicines are serving people. And again, to be able to kind of like see this bigger story, because these medicines go hand in hand with our collective shift in consciousness. So now again, it's like, how do we continue to deepen that relationship, that relationship with these medicines as allies? You know, like they are allies, they are teachers, they are sacred, they are ancestors. So what can we learn for them? So thank you again for being able to just like really reinforce the reverence for that relationship as it continues to evolve. So very important. If you're looking to check out the Instagram page, check for Thank You Plant Medicine. It literally is instagram.com/Thank You Plant Medicine. So just run a search on that and you'll be able to find it there as well. And they got more ongoing stuff that's worth checking out. So let's just keep things rolling along, team. Kind of once more around the circle for everybody here, for those who feel called to share any additional thoughts, plus any closing insights as well. I was gonna share. I'll just do it real quick that way, so we don't have to do it in a second. So I made a little TikTok video. I made this from a while ago when we did our discussion on psychedelics, but these are like 10 things that I learned through my psychedelic experience. So number one, our focus moves energy. So this for me was a very, very powerful realization while working with psychedelics, was the idea of literally like understanding like the breath and the energy and the focus like literally moves through your experience when you're in this place where the subtle energies are very in your current awareness. Like that's the thing, like oftentimes like there's all this subtle energy that's happening, but we're not really aware of it, where this gives us the opportunity to become aware of that subtle energy. Other thing, separation is an illusion, stuff that we've already talked about, really being able to see the oneness between all things. Breath is a cosmic generator. Again, this idea that the breath can move you through anything, and the breath literally helps move energy through our body and even beyond our body as well. And the other thing that I got from that was as above, so below. So again, really understanding that the microcosm is a macrocosm. The veins of a tree are the veins of your arms type thing. We are in a perception-based holographic reality. For me, a big thing with the idea of psychedelics that really was like such a big kicker when really working with mushrooms and even just other stuff, was this very visceral realization that this reality that we're in is literally an extension of the dream space. And again, this is me just putting it in my own words. I invite you to just interpret it through your own experience. But quite literally for me, when I was having some of these high dose experiences, it was incredibly visceral for me, where it felt like very akin to being in a lucid dream, and being in this space where I'm just like, oh my goodness, this reality is the dream space. It literally is another version of the dream space. The difference here is that there's like density and time and different variables, but it's of the same thing. So within this understanding, it's also this idea that we are the dreamers awakening within the dream, which is such a powerful concept to be able to really just embody. We are all beings of light in physical form. That was another thing through these psychedelic experiences. And some people talk about this, like through psychedelic experiences, if you're doing them in the day, you can literally like see the auras. You can literally see that like the trees and the people and everything, like it's literally light. Like it literally is light in physical form. A lot of people, again, like to us who have been in the spiritual community and we talk about this, it's like, yeah, you know, we get that. But for a lot of people, they don't see it that way. They think matter is just this dense thing, but they don't literally see it as the idea that we literally are beings of light in this physical form as well. The other thing, and I'll just wrap it up here, we are in an ocean of cosmic energy, something that I already talked about. This was something that was very visceral, where it's like, again, we understand that literally we are surrounded in an ocean of energy. Interpret that how you will, and we are an extension of that. We are the ocean and the drop. They show you what reality is actually like, and it's magical is kind of the idea that I put in there. So our normal reality is actually a psychedelic experience. So that's a concept in itself that is quite fascinating, that like what we experience right now as like baseline reality is in itself the brain producing certain chemicals and certain signals and certain calibrations and, you know, ones and zeros and stuff, where it's like right now, like this is a psychedelic experience in the sense that it's like kind of simulated through different neural pathways, making it so that we can perceive things with the intention of it being a way for us to be able to navigate this world without it being too chaotic, so that we can build houses and farm and drive cars and be present in the moment as well. Again, you know, I think this reality at its baseline is so incredibly like hyper that reality did a very intentional job to be able to make it so that we can move through it with a way where it's not always entirely overwhelming. And that's where, again, you know, you listen to people who are on the spectrum, who have like autism and things like that, and I think like they kind of had the filters a little bit different, and that's where they talk about the idea of like being much more aware of this energy as well. So again, psychedelics with an intention can help us kind of like peel back that layer just for a period of time to be able to experience, remember it, become aware of it, and then to do it with an intention and a serving process to be able to bring back that knowing into this reality, to really be able to see the interconnectedness that we share. And the last one, there are infinite dimensions inside of us to explore. A really powerful thing with psychedelics is going out in nature and looking at the world around you, but it also to be able to like use psychedelics and meditate and to travel and traverse these inner landscapes, where again, for me, sometimes working with psychedelics, it feels like a technology. Like this body feels like a technology, and the psychedelics are like activating an aspect of the technology, where this is where you start getting into the concept of people literally meditating and using psychedelic states to go into other dimensional planes to be able to like communicate with other forms of conscious intelligence, entities, OUs, whatever you want to be able to interpret it as. But yes, like even through things like DMT, you have people talking about these experiences where they literally go into another space, like they're in another dimension as well. So the psychedelics can help us experience that, but that's also parallel to the idea that dreams literally like produce this very similar chemicals. When we're dreaming, we produce those naturally. So that's when we're dreaming, we're going into similar spaces, and when we're on psychedelics, we're going into similar spaces. So again, it's kind of like this body is a spaceship. Its body is like a Stargate, right? Like quite literally, like literally, I'm not exaggerating when I say that the body is a Stargate, and through psychedelics they can help us kind of like learn how to be able to access and navigate those with intention. So that's the little thing that I made from that little TikTok video, so just be able to reiterate that. Let's keep things passing along here. So who else wants to just be able to share? Allis, we'll pass it over to you, and then anybody else after that. Go right ahead, Allis.
I just wanted to turn y'all on to chlorophyll. I forgot that I was going to mention this. So chlorophyll hadn't really like come into my consciousness. It hadn't really called to me. I'd seen somebody talked about it like on a TikTok or something, but I've been working a lot with my sacral chakra and being like intuitively guided in the grocery store. That's just like something that's been really healing for me. So I was in the grocery store and I was just kind of doing that. And I felt like at the end, it was almost like I was like, oh, I forgot something. And I was like looking around, and I wound up walking through the like kind of like soap and vitamin section, and it was like as I got closer to the chlorophyll, it was just like I was like throbbing, and my guides were like, we want you to take it. I was like, great, so that sounds amazing. And so I'm gonna be honest, I haven't physically noticed a difference, but when I looked it up, it's like a real detoxifier. And I also really like what is kind of a confirmation for me is that it's having to do with this light, and about like plant food, and like how they alchemize the light, we alchemize the light, and that sort of thing. So I just wanted to mention that that's something that's like a really, that like my spirit team is really passionate about. And I guess I feel good so far taking it. So look into it if it's something that's been in the back of your mind too. Maybe look into it. Maybe this is the time to look into it, but it does turn your tongue green. So just, FYI. But that's what I got to say.
Thank you, Allis. All right, so much wisdom to be able to share, and for so relative infinite time within this podcast, so we'll just get it all in, and there's always more to be able to talk about another day. Who else wants to be able to share any additional? Leeza, who else? Just go ahead and just be able to get some hands up if you guys want to share another thing before we wrap it up. So, okay, we'll pass it over to Leeza, and then Ren. Mason, did you have your hand up there for a second? Yeah, okay, so Leeza, will pass it over to you then, Ren. Go ahead, Leeza.
So I was thinking about it earlier today, and you guys just made me think of it again. If you think about it, like, so plants go through photosynthesis, and so we take in oxygen and give out CO2. They take in the CO2 and they give us oxygen. So it's like we're taking in what we need and giving and releasing what we no longer need. And they're taking in what we no longer need to give us what we need. So it's like this relationship that we have with them in a way that we're using plant medicine right now just by breathing. So that's just a little thought that I wanted to share that I thought was really cool.
100%. We would not be here if it wasn't for plants. Like, absolutely. Like, they are, in terms of like all of us being one bigger organism, they are a part of that ecosystem. Absolutely. So cool. All right, Ren, go ahead. Pass it over to you when you're ready.
Hi. So to go along with Allis as well, amazing benefits that I recently realized was aloe vera juice. I don't know if anyone has ever thought of that or heard of it, but aloe vera juice is like, there's so many amazing benefits to it. You could get it like at any store, I think. And it's just really good for like acid reflux, which I feel like a lot of people experience, heartburn. It's really good for your skin. It could be an alternative to mouthwash. It's great as a laxative, because like that was something that I needed recently, and I was like, this is the bomb. And it actually prevents breast cancer apparently. And ginger, that is a very amazing thing. Ginger, like I was reading in a book, like if you can find ways to put ginger in like your food, like every day in any kind of way, like a shake, whatever, that's really beneficial for your gut and anything else. And turmeric, those are like, these will be your friends, and they've been helping me so much recently. Like you will feel the physical benefits of having these things. So yeah, I just wanted to bring up those two because they're life changing for me, and they definitely would be for others. So
awesome. Thank you so much, Ren. Mason, will pass it over to you next. When you're ready, go right ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, just after hearing everyone's experiences, I was reminded, like in my memory, back to one major experience I had, and what I immediately created after that experience was a short poem, and I wanted to just go ahead and share it. Thank you, Creator, for choosing it. The progress you make will forever be thanked. Forward you must go, now until once old. May beauty fill all, while some will fall. Creator stands tall. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mason. Wonderful. Okay, who else wants to be able to share? Kai, we haven't heard from you in a bit. Did you want to be able to jump in with anything before we get close to wrapping it up, if you feel called? Go ahead, Kai.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. I just want to share gratitude at first, just the sacred space and all you amazing people, and just sharing these experiences. Like I've never ever had a circle like this where we can just express like our impactful memories and experiences and trips, and without like a little bit, well, initially I was a little taboo about it, without being to really fully express it. But yeah, I just want to give thanks to you all and give thanks to plants. um and I just want to leave y'all with one of my favorite green juice smoothie recipes that's all plants. I actually learned this from TikTok. I think it was Reese Witherspoon. She's the one that showed me it. But so it is kiwi, cucumber stalk. I don't have the exact proportions. Like you just want to mess around with it. So there's kiwi, cucumber, pineapple. There is ginger. You can put some cilantro if you wanted. And what else was there? There might have been one more thing. Oh, celery. Wait, not celery. I said celery. Cucumber. Yeah, cucumber. So all those, throw together, and you can just add water, or you can add whatever juice you like. I like to put like kombucha, and then you just blend that stuff up, and then yeah, drink one a day, and that'll keep the doctors away.
That's cool. Thank you, Kai. Thank you, Reese Witherspoon. I didn't see that video, but Ren, did you want me to pass it over to you? Were you replying to that? But anyways, it's funny because I feel like we'll talk about this, and I know like if we do, it will just kind of take us down a whole nother rabbit hole. But I did see like one post where it's basically just like Reese Witherspoon gets in trouble for sharing her drink recipe because it's like basically teaching teaching people how to be healthy, like it's so weird. We're at this point where like teaching people how to be healthy is actually like a criminal, rebellious thing, right? Like that's where we're at right now, where it's like we're literally demonizing medicines and plants and things like that because people have so much faith in the pharmaceutical. But we need to bring the farm back into the pharmaceutical, the actual like dirt and mineral aspect of the farm. So again, shout out to Reese Witherspoon. But we'll have to make a discussion topic on that the other day, just like the messed up, crazy, backward world we're in and how to be able to make sense of it and figure it out. But 100%, like plants, we are working alongside us, like they are working alongside us, like they need us and we need them. Like quite literally, like they have wisdom to be able to share, but they don't have a voice. So we can be a voice for the plants. We can be a voice for the voiceless in that context as well. So if you feel that plants have changed your life in some way, tell people, talk about it, whether that's just like your smoothie recipes, whether it's related to psychedelics, or whether it's just the change in your diet and how it's made a difference for you. Like absolutely, again, like we all deserve to be able to connect back to that health, and so many people are like freaking miles away from that like actual experience. Like some people have gotten so used to being in like a place where like their normal is a very kind of like stagnant vibration, so to speak, and therefore like when they begin to change their diet and stuff, it really brings them into a place where there's like, oh my god, I didn't even know this feeling was possible. I've never had this feeling before because I've been eating fake food for my entire life, right? So anyways, like I said, that's a discussion for another time. Closing thoughts and gratitude. Ren, did you want me to pass it back to you? Was that there's some like behind the scenes stuff going on here, I can tell. So Ren, go ahead.
I just realized I only had 2 reactions, and that's what it was. It was just thumbs up and the wave. And I was like, everyone else got marked out here. I don't know what's going on. But kale smoothies, all right? I had to say it. They're the best. Okay?
Absolutely. Yes, 100%. So smoothies will change your life. So of all variety. So, oh man, I kind of want a smoothie right now. Okay, again, just kind of closing thoughts, and we'll get close to wrapping this up. Just either gratitude or any additional wisdom that you want people to be able to keep in mind and go out on. Who wants to be able to jump in? You guys have done an awesome job tonight, and I know we're getting close, and there's always more to be able to talk about. Again, just trying to being able to explain the psychedelic experience. We kind of did that before. But yeah, like I remember the psychedelic experience, like the initial come up, it's so interesting because you like feel it in your body. And it really is just like this like expansion oftentimes when you get into that state. One thing that I've kind of talked about with cannabis, I'll just mention this because we're just kind of plugging time, but if anybody else, again, if you guys just let me know, and even if it's just closing gratitude, last call. But one thing with cannabis, this is just kind of a theory, maybe you guys have some thoughts on this, where it's like basically like when you smoke cannabis, this is, no one told me this, I'm just like, does this make sense? It kind of makes sense. Where like when you smoke cannabis, it's literally like it opens your chakras. Like in the sense that your chakras are like these energy portals throughout our body that are related to our senses. And so when they're rotating normally, that's just baseline. But when we smoke weed and we get high, it literally kind of like opens them for a temporary period of time. And that's why our senses become enhanced. So that's why like, when we smoke weed and stuff like that, depending on the strain, sometimes we'll be like, whoa, like we're looking at things, like things are just more engaging. We're kind of like perceiving and bringing in like more of that awareness. And then at the same time, it also affects like our throat, which again, maybe that like relates to like the munchies and things like that, but then it also affects like our third eye and our imagination, our creativity. It allows us the ability to kind of like see things in different perspectives, and then it also kind of like relates back into the lower chakras, even like the root chakras and the base chakras, where sometimes it can really help people kind of like be in that place of like groundedness and stability and really feeling called to connect with nature. I know sometimes for me, like when I'm working with cannabis, I love being able to work with cannabis and like put on some really cool music, and it really helps me get into like this place of of power and confidence, where like I'll just like freaking vibe out so hard. And sometimes if I'm like in a place where, you know, maybe I've just kind of been distracted by other things, if I like smoke some cannabis and really like play a song that like has meaning to me, it will just like bring me back into the mode and be like, yes, like this is what I'm here to do, this is my life purpose, this is my mission. And it just like really kind of like pumps me up. So that's kind of like the solar chakra. So again, that's where like with this idea, it's kind of like it opens up your chakras, and then depending on how high you get, it can kind of like it atrophies afterwards, and that's where there's almost like this fatigue where your chakras almost have to like recalibrate and stuff. Anyways, that was just kind of one interpretation, but I feel like it kind of happens like that for like other psychedelics, where it's like literally opening up the energy centers within us on a multi-dimensional level. Again, I'm trying to comprehend like there's like a metaphysical science to this, but there's something that happens, right? Like it's not just, oh, a couple more chemicals are released. The energetic body literally responds to these medicines. So that's the thing, like you work with the psychedelic medicines and it changes something within your energetic body as well. It has an effect on your energetic body, and that's where you start getting into the things like the ayahuasca and the cambo and the purging and like the deep releasing and the traumas and the things coming up and healing. Super, super, super interesting as well. So any other thoughts, again, even if it was like, I don't know, about the cannabis and the chakra opening? Does that make sense to you guys? Like, I don't know, you tell me if that resonates with you guys in some form or another, because I never, and again, it's kind of like this idea where it's like, oh, when we smoke weed, why do we say like, oh, we're getting high and stuff like that? You know, it's like literally this idea that it's like we're getting into like a higher vibrational state. So like at this higher vibrational state, our energy centers are like more open, and that's why we kind of like have this experience. So it's like getting high is getting into a higher vibrational state. But again, at the same time, you can smoke cannabis and sometimes it gets you high, but then it kind of shifts you into what could theoretically be described as kind of like a lesser dimensional state, if it's like, again, depending on where we're emotionally at that time. But yeah, no, I think it's a very, very powerful thing. And that's where, again, with meditation, with plant medicine such as cannabis, it can be a very powerful way to just kind of like connect with our higher self, connect with our self-awareness, connect with like our calling and our motivation. And again, going back to this idea that these medicines are here to be able to help us share our medicine, is the way that I was putting it. So what is your medicine that you bring into the world through your art and your compassion and your leadership? Again, this is what being a shifter is all about, is encouraging each of us to be able to bring our medicine into this world to be able to help assist it with healing and growing. So all right, last call on any just closing gratitude, that's fine, and then we'll wrap this up. So anybody else just want to be able to jump in with anything to be able to share, just go ahead and let me know. Z, will pass it over to you. Go right ahead.
Okay. Well, it's more, I guess, personal than wisdom, but like for me, like marijuana has been so helpful. Oh my God. Sorry, I'm in love with these hearts. I want everyone to see you. Look at Leeza's screen. She said, it's Samantha, yay! I did it too. Oh, it's a wave of hearts. Okay, this is making me super happy. Okay. I was just gonna say, it's really helpful to hear everyone's perspective of like the I'm sorry. I mean, the hearts make me so happy that I start laughing. I'm so sorry. Oh my god. Okay. I like the the pros and cons of marijuana, because I feel like I live in a dichotomy with it, because I would say out of everything in life, my one addiction is marijuana. I have a hard time saying no to it. And it was one of, I mean, there's a lot of reasons I moved to Singapore, but this was one of them. I was like, I can't do what I want in life if I keep smoking marijuana this much. But if it's but here in Singapore, it's a death penalty. There's no marijuana, or you get imprisoned. Singapore is really like it's its own thing, right? And in Dubai, like there's no marijuana, there's no drugs. It's very difficult. So my point is, but it's been super helpful. At the same time, I went 8 months without ever smoking weed when I was living here last year, and I went to the darkest place in my life, because actually weed is like an antidepressant too, and it helps again like heal. And without it, I suffered really badly. And then I left and I went to London and I healed through my breakup. So much better. I was there. I was safe again. Weed made me safe again. Weed didn't let me go to like that dark of a place anymore. But it helps to numb you. But then if you do it too much, then it can numb you out from everything. So there's like that's the issue. You know what I mean? Then you're like, it numbs ambition, you know, and I could see that my ambitions matter to me more than any fucking other thing, you know. So if I saw that being curved, I was like, shit. So for me now, it's like a healthy balance of like, well, now that I'm back in Singapore, there's nothing, like I would be doing it for a long time again. But I think like, yeah. Anyways, I just wanted to share more personal.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Z. Yeah. Very cool, very cool. Okay. Getting those hearts in. You guys are awesome. Okay. All right. Again, last call. We're just about ready to wrap this up. This has been a wonderful episode, and again, thank you everyone for being a part of it. And I'm within the YouTube chat. I'll just put it out there real quick. If you guys got any questions for the people on our panel, go ahead and ask those real quick. We'll probably just pick a couple of them though, because again, we are so close to the end. Anybody else just have any closing thoughts or anything that they just want to be able to pass on to the audience? Go right ahead. Leeza, pass over to you, and then Ren, if you want to go after. Go ahead, Leeza.
I actually have a question. So I've heard a lot of like when you have like do psychedelics and like the mirror is kind of like a portal. So if anyone experienced that and would like to talk about it, I would love to hear your experience.
Anybody ever look into a mirror on psychedelics before? That's a flavor all in itself. So, Kai, have you done that? Mason?
Yeah.
Kai, anybody? Go ahead. You can talk on that, yeah.
I had this big mirror in the other room, and one time, so there's this like company based out of Ontario that sells like research like acid, like LSD. It's called 1P-LSD. So I was like tripping at home allegedly on that. And then at one point I was staring at this my mandala, and I was just sitting on the edge of my bed, just sitting there meditating on it. And at one point it felt like I just went through it into another portal, and it was just like a separate little like, you know, psychedelic reality. But yeah, back to the mirror. I had like this tall mirror stood up, and I was just kind of just there standing in front of it, just looking at myself. And you kind of had those kind of swirling, kind of holographic kind of visuals. And for me, it felt like I was looking at like maybe my higher self, or like a wiser self, or like me in another, you know, maybe another timeline or a past life. And it was so like empowering, and it was like I was there with myself but not really myself. And it was just this experience where you just feel, I don't know how to describe it, but you just feel like things are going to make sense. Like here you are face to face with, you know, you, but another version of you. And it was just very, in some ways, like, yeah, it's very settling. It's very calming to know that like here I am in front of the mirror, and I can almost like, you could almost feel like you could just put your hand, like just go through that mirror to that other you, or that other version, or that other world, and just right there, it's like so tangible, like it's so palpable, that after that you just feel like, you just feel so settled. You just feel like kind of a bit more at peace.
It's very interesting. Yeah, oftentimes, again, with psychedelics, the idea of like being able to look at yourself in the mirror, as triggering as it can be, can also be very powerful, where it's almost like you're kind of like seeing yourself from the perspective of godness or your higher self or something like that, where it's like you really take that opportunity to look at yourself, and you're just like, oh yeah, like that's who I am, or that's the body that I'm in, and that can actually be like inviting for you to be like very gentle with yourself, and almost like see yourself as if you are another person, and you're just like, I got to be kind to that person. I'm going to be kind to that person. I love this person. You know, such a very, very powerful. And again, this is all stuff that you can literally just do while sober and just really get into that habit. But if you're on psychedelics in that moment, it can really just kind of take you to that visceral mindset where it's just like, oh my goodness, like this is, who am I? Like, who am I really? You know, and then when you kind of like ask these questions, you begin to just like remind yourself, just like, oh yeah, like I am like an immortal, infinite soul, like in this temporary human experience, and this is just the spaceship that I happen to be in right now. It gets very, very interesting when it's amazing. Just again, you know, like when you're working with psychedelics, how it doesn't just change your perception, but it actually changes the thought process. And this is where we were talking about like the neural rewiring of the brain, and creating new patterns and the process of the healing. But literally it can, again, you know, it's kind of like changing, like there's things shifting where it can really create those aha moments where suddenly an idea that previously was just kind of floating in separate space suddenly comes together and you're just like, oh my goodness, like I get it. Like it suddenly clicks, you know, it's like something activates inside of you. I remember having plenty of those moments where it's just like, what, like realizations, like big realizations, as well as just like funny realizations, like what Terrence McKenna talks about, how your pinky finger fits perfectly into your nostril and things like that. True story. Everybody go ahead, double check for yourself in case you've never done that before. It's quite miraculous to be able to realize how incredibly perfect, as we're like literally just like, huh, interesting. So, but yeah, again, that's the journey of being a psychonaut. Again, it's a very, very powerful one. And there are people that have dedicated themselves to being able to enter into these spaces, to be able to bring back, you know, wisdom and insight and medicine for our world in very, very powerful ways. So thank you, plant medicine, for the work that, you know, for plant medicine, for what it has shown me. I'm who I am because of it. I wouldn't just say I'm a different person. I'd literally just say it's who I am. And me working with plant medicine is nothing less than me being on my path and feeling called to do it. And as we already talked about, when it comes to plant medicine, it really is something that we just need to honor as an intuitive process, where listen to the calling inside of you. If you feel called to be able to be open to it, hold that openness within your heart, and when the time is right, it will show up for you. If you don't feel called to do it, that's totally cool, and that's again what's best for you within that moment. And maybe down the road, if you go back to that question, you'll decide something else. But again, it's totally cool, and we respect everyone for whatever choice it is that they make in relation to that. So any other closing thoughts and hype, just be able to wrap things up, and then we'll finish it off. So anybody else just want to be able to, even just any gratitude before we close it off? Ren, go ahead, Ren.
I just see someone's asking like a question on the YouTube, and they were just like, how do we get the most natural form of weed? You know, because I feel like from dispensaries, they aren't really natural. I think they spray chemicals. I mean, like some do definitely. And that's what Samantha was saying about research. Always do your research. It's not bad to ask questions, like literally ask them where they source their weed from, what farms they like farm the weed from. I believe like in certain states, you can even go to some of these farms and like see how they do the process themselves. So again, ask questions and see what kind of brands they use, because some brands do, some don't. And yeah, I would say that's, I don't know if anyone else has anything else to add on that, but
yeah, no, it's always important to be able to ask questions and figure out your sources and figure out your options, because there are a lot of different strains out there as well. So okay, anybody else, any closing thoughts or even any other questions for the team, and then we'll wrap this up. We're almost at the end here, so I appreciate everybody being here again. Anybody else, just closing gratitude? We're all good. Cool. All right, well, I guess we're pretty much ready to wrap it up. So with that said, we'll just do a quick little closing meditation, and yeah, just closing thoughts. Thank you, plants, for being the medicine and teaching us how to be able to share our medicine in the world, and being such powerful allies and tools and psychedelic keys that unlock more of ourselves. And I hold space in my heart for a future where we will have the wisdom to be able to continue to work with these plants in a variety of very powerful and beneficial ways that will transform the world and our place and our understanding within it. So with that said, let's get ready to move into just a quick little closing meditation, and then we'll wrap it up here. So if everybody just wants to get nice and comfortable, and when you're ready, if you want to put your hand on your heart and gently just close your eyes. Just allow yourself to become aware of your breath. Soft, gentle inhales and soft, gentle exhales. And as we breathe here, just allowing ourselves to relax. If you want to gently straighten up your spine, open your chest, relax your face, feel free. And really just honoring this beautiful gift that we have of this experience within human form, to be able to share these discussions, to be able to hold space for one another, to be able to learn and grow, to be sacred mirrors. And so just taking this opportunity to be able to hold gratitude in your heart for yourself and for the team, as we visualize all of us sitting in this beautiful circle, continuing to integrate and embody this wisdom. And so as you breathe here, really just feeling this love, feeling this ongoing story that we are living and creating together. How are we bringing our medicine out into the world? And how are we deepening our relationship with these plants and teachers? So just take an opportunity here to be able to express your gratitude for the people in the circle as well as the plants themselves, and just hold that space within your heart for a few moments, just within your own silence. Go ahead and do that now. Just feeling that love within your heart. You are the magic. And if you feel called to express any particular sentence, words of inspiration for everybody here, go ahead and just speak that from your heart now. Perhaps something in theme with tonight's discussion topic. Taking another look around and just inviting everybody within their mind as we conclude this practice in this sacred space. Just imagine all of us gently standing up, and we're all just do a big group hug here. If you want to invite everybody, just inviting everybody, if you feel called to just imagine this beautiful group hug, and just adding this gentle sway to your body as you feel all of us hugging in this space, and just kind of really feeling our connection as this like single organism. And really just feeling the energy of the group, just holding that space within our heart. If you want to give yourself a nice big squeeze, actual physical hug in this moment, go ahead and do that. And we'll do a couple deep inhale, exhales with a sigh. Deep inhale together. Exhale, nice big sigh. Do another one of those. Inhale. And one more just for good luck. Inhale. You can gently release your arms when you feel called, and slowly imagine the group hug just gently moving apart, and thanking everybody again for joining, giving some individual hugs to the people within your mind's eye. This beautiful community, this beautiful team, and the ways in which we continue to learn, share, and level up together every single day, every single week. So keeping this vibration within our heart and feeling the call to be able to bring our medicine out into the world, may this broadcast continue to ignite your spirit and fill your heart and remind you of the magic within you. And slowly from here, gently bring your awareness back to your physical body as you wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers. When you're ready, gently open your eyes and return your awareness to the space around you. Beautiful.
Joining everyone on
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Beautiful. Yeah, shout out to Kai. Are you still on TikTok right now? Is that where you're just...
Yeah, I'm on TikTok.
Hi, Ty's TikTok. Thank you, Ty's TikTok, for joining in. We love you guys too. So beautiful.
Oh, no.
Hi, Ty's TikTok. So cool. All right. So yes, thank you again, everyone, for joining in. Be sure to check the show notes. For those of you watching live, refresh this in about 5 minutes, and you can find all the links to all the creators that we've had on air with us tonight. Again, if you haven't yet, be sure to click the links in the info for this video to connect to our team Discord chat, join on the Patreon if you want to get involved as a leading member for future episodes of the weekly podcast, plus more, to be able to help support you within our team of conscious media creators. And stay tuned. We got more awesome podcasts happening every Thursday, 8 p.m. EST. Subscribe, like this video, follow Paradigm Shift Radio on Spotify. And yeah, please continue these conversations. And I love each and every single one of you, and I'm so excited to just be able to hold space for such inspiring discussion. So with that said, we will officially conclude this broadcast, and just inviting everybody to gently unmute their microphones as we bring everybody up on camera and say goodnight to everyone. So thank you, everyone. We love you guys. Make some noise. Send them some love. Woo, 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 woo. We love you guys.
Thank you. We love you.
Beautiful. Good night, everyone. Until next time, keep it shifty, and welcome to the future. Pew, pew, pew. Thank you to Danny Leonardo, whose music is featured at the beginning and end of this podcast. Be sure to check out more of Danny's work in the YouTube info below. Thank you, Danny.